we're one person away at least. So it's like I make a new friend, but we have some sort of like mutual friends. And that's not even just in like the aviation program, like outside of that as well. I've been involved in multiple clubs, Greek life, classes in general, gen eds. It's always connected. So I've never felt like I was drowning, even though it is a large school with great programs and a lot of expansion across the university. So I know a lot of people, whenever they go and on tours and stuff, they're always like, it's a big college, like, am I going to drown in the student body? But you really don't. Everybody's always one person away. It's a really great community. I've made some really great lifelong friends and everything that I've been involved in there. So, and I've just overall really enjoyed my experience there. Everybody always asks on tours as well, like, if you could go back and choose a different college, would you? And I always tell them genuinely no. I have loved my time at MTSU and all that the college has invested in me, and then the people that I've met through there as well. It's been a really, really great experience.
That's wonderful. Yes.
A+ answer.
Right.
She doesn't need those grades anymore, but that's really what, she's a great example of why we do what we do.
Right. Right.
And it's a happy story. And like Haley indicated, it's a big community, diverse community, and we still are quite friendly. And one thing about our university, we had a pretty low student-faculty ratio, so it's not like you're just lost in the crowd. Students from day one on campus have an opportunity to interact with faculty members, not strictly in huge sections with teaching assistants. And nothing wrong with that for the schools who do it, but we've taken a slightly different approach.
Yeah. Right.
And do you have a mascot?
We do. We do.
Blue Raiders.
Where the Blue Raiders is our teams. Our mascot is called Lightning.
Okay.
Who is some people say Pegasus, others say winged horse.
Okay.
But
so would I say, if I wanted to act like a local and be like, do I say go Raiders? Like, what's the phrase?
Go Blue Raiders.
Go Blue Raiders.
Go Blue. Yeah.
Well, you both are tremendous ambassadors for MTSU. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know it's going to be a great show. And Haley, congratulations again on your journey. And Mark, again, tremendous ambassador for MTSU.
Well,
thanks for coming and sharing the
thanks
story
so
of the
much
school.
for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great conversation. Hope to see both of you more throughout the show. And again, we're here on day one. We got 4 days of awesome coverage here, Teresa. So it is Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Haley, for being with us this morning.
It's happening. Okay. It's happening. Let's go. It's happening. Let's go. Get the bag. Get the bag. Yeah. What?
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a Redbird near you and fly like you've been there before.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Trashed.
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a Redbird near you and fly like you've been there before.
Watching Aviation Consumer Live, part of this Fire Crown Oshkosh Live series with Kyle Ludwig at Garmin. Become an annual thing, man. It's an annual sit-down with Kyle at Garmin. Always stuff to talk about, obviously, here at the Garmin Metropolis. Seems to get bigger every year. And let's talk a little bit about what you guys got this year. few airplanes, lots of demos inside, right?
Absolutely. And Larry, thanks for having us on again. It is our annual thing, I feel like, and to kick the show off, boy, the crowds are coming in. Celebration Way looks totally busy out here, and the exhibit was packed at 9 o'clock as soon as we opened. We've been gearing up for Oshkosh for a number of months now, and as you know, we've had 11 announcements in July alone, and thanks to Firecrown, we've had a lot of great coverage on those too. And this year we've really ramped up for Oshkosh with our navigation database announcement that includes the Fisk arrival this year to load it straight in your avionics, Garmin Pilot, and then a smart chart to cover that too. We're just really happy to be at Oshkosh and really happy to support the event.
So how many kiosks inside with demos?
Oh my gosh, dozens of kiosks inside. All of our greatest products, from flight displays to navigators, autopilots, integrated flight decks as well. If you want to see the new G3000 Prime setup, you can absolutely do that. And then our database desk as well, which I hope we can talk about in a little bit. You can see the full gamut from a portable GPS and Era 660 or 760 all the way through our newest integrated flight deck. It's we have it all to show the consumers at the show.
Let's talk about getting here first. And you guys announced the Oshkosh arrival procedure that you could load into your Garmin Navigator. Anybody that's ever flown the arrival in here at Oshkosh, VFR or IFR, you're sitting up straight in the seats. And tell me a little bit about how this arrival procedure works when you load it into a Garmin Navigator.
Yeah, we're really proud of what we did with the Fisk arrival this year. You know, you said it best. The Fisk arrival, you really have to have your head on a swivel. A lot of traffic merging at the different waypoints out there, the different transition points onto the Fisk. And this year we made it easier by you can simply, if you have the Garmin Aviation database, 2507 cycle, you load it just like any other arrival. So you go to your procedures arrival, and the Fisk arrival shows up for Oshkosh. If you listen to the ATIS like they ask you to, 50 to 100 miles out, you'll see that they have a fix that they're sending folks to. So out there, you know, I flew it the other day, and we did the Green Lake transition. So you load it as the Fisk, Green Lake transition, load a runway, and we put you either pointed towards the north complex or the south complex on a left base or a crosswind if they're using 1.8, and you can load it straight there. And you can also fly it coupled. So if you have a Garmin autopilot in your airplane or any other autopilot, but Garmin autopilot, of course, you can fly it in nav mode. Use magenta needles, of course, but keep your head outside the airplane more instead of having to manage, what am I looking at on the ground? Do I have my needles centered up? Am I on altitude and speed and look for traffic? We're trying to take one of those elements away, which is the navigation piece, because you can fly it coupled, and it should make the arrival safer. You can keep your eyes out for traffic, keep a closer eye on what's going on around you, and a more enjoyable experience coming into Oshkosh this year.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about engine monitoring systems. You and I caught up yesterday and talked about it a little bit, and as I've said in the past, you know, when people ask me for advice on avionics upgrades over the years, and they say, where do I start? You've got a legacy panel that hasn't been touched in years. My standard response has always been, well, start at the audio panel and work your way down, because you got to have good audio. But in a world where we've got a market that's struggling when it comes to engines, engine prices, long delays at the shop, it's more important now to monitor the engine. And there's nothing new about engine monitors. They've been around for a long time, but Garmin's got a wide variety of engine monitors to choose from. What are the advantages of a Garmin EIS?
That's a great question, Larry, and we have a wide-ranging set of solutions on the EIS side, right? We have GI 275 EIS if you're just looking to replace a 3 1/8 inch instrument. Maybe you take out a 3 1/8 inch RPM gauge attack, and you throw in our EIS with the sensors, and now you have a device that logs all the data for that engine as well. We look at an engine as an investment. You said it best. Engines are expensive. They're very expensive, and I can say, as an owner of a Mooney with a newer IO360, 200-horse angle valve IO360, that was a big price of not only the overhaul but the installation, and I wanted to protect it. So having an engine monitor, or we call it an EIS, is great. You log that data in the back end, and you can load it up to flygarmin.com to analyze that data after your flight to send to your mechanic, be it your local mechanic, your IA, your ANP, or now our integrations. We have integrations with flygarmin.com with folks like Savvy. Mike Bush is a longtime expert on engine maintenance and a revered person in the industry, Larry, as you know. And I'll tell you what, you send your data over there. They can look at the health of your new overhaul, or maybe your engine's past TBO, like he sometimes say we can go, and he can look at that. And you can do everything from that 3 1/8 inch instrument that I mentioned earlier all the way up through our G3X integrated solution or our TXI standalone or integrated engine indication system too. So it's not just an instrument anymore. It's not just an instrument that you view in the cockpit. You can pull that data off, analyze your airplane after flight, or send it automatically if you have plane sync and a GDL60 to fly Garmin, then on to an analysis company like Savvy. So we're really proud to not only offer an instrument solution, but also keep up on the health of your airplane going forward.
You know, and another advantage of a EIS system is fuel monitoring, fuel quantity and fuel flow, of course, with a transducer mounted on the engine. It's a big installation, right? But what advantages over the old school fuel system quantity where you got bouncing gauges and all that?
Think about the number of NTSB reports that end in cause fuel starvation, right? And this has been happening since airplanes are flying around. We push fuel, or maybe we can't get to the alternate, folks run out of gas, etc. It's just such a sad thing to see, but it happens. And so you're exactly right. Having integration with something like the new SICE fuel senders, you get that precise, not only fuel quantity indication, but of course we can see how much we've burned through these engine indication systems too. And so folks can just get that much more precise a reading on what they have on board, what they've already burned to do their calculations. We've been doing Navlog since the beginning of the time when we're flying cross countries and we're flying out and around. And so this just makes it easier to fill in that block on how much fuel have I burned, how much is left to get to destination. And again, it's just so much more precise. And they always say don't trust your fuel gauges, and I feel like we're getting to the stage that, hey, where they're required item for flight, right? And so, hey, let's put a little more trust into them with what we're doing with our engine indication system.
Big announcement a couple months ago with our Garmin Smart Charts, and it's a project that you've been working on for years. You've been involved for several years. Let's talk about it. We've been using these old-style charts for years. And what Smart Charts, it's a whole different game, isn't it?
It's funny. We've been looking at the same approach plates really since the 30s and 40s, right? World War II sparked a lot of instrument flying off, came into the U.S. in the 50s recreationally, and with the airlines kind of booming after the war. It was a huge team effort, years and years and years of effort by teams all across this company. It takes a navigation database team. It takes a design team. It takes a ton of pilots and engineers and just project management folks, just working with so many great people that maybe have never even worked together before. And I think that was the beauty of what our management team was able to bring together, is pull all these folks together. And a couple folks on the team did a really wonderful job, a masterful job of pulling them together, Larry. And going to the product, I think it's really cool now that what is a chart, right? We used to think of it as a paper chart. We pulled those in a rasterized format into the iPad, the advent of the iPad, the mobile devices. And now you can have a chart that is really data overlaid on a map that's really for your flight. You're building an RV-12. I'm flying a Mooney. We may fly Category A or B. But let's say we're flying a Bonanza where we may switch between B and C. Going into a busy airport, they tell you keep your speed up. Now we only see one set of minima. We don't have to look at that chart at the bottom and see A, B, C, D, what is broken, what is out, are lights on or off, etc. We plug all that in, per se, and you get a chart that has one set of minima for your approach type. It has one set of minima that maybe we added some height because there's tall ships in the harbor in Boston. We talked about that a couple times ago. We chatted. It gives you that one piece of information, that one route. There's not all those transitions, and it's just a much cleaner way to fly those procedures and keep your essay up. And we're very proud to bring those to not only approach plates we talked about, but airport diagrams, SIDS, and stars. We really revolutionized what pilots can look at there in the instrument industry.
Man, we go through these NTSB rec reports in Aviation Consumer. Been doing it for years, and we do it every month in the Used Aircraft Guide. And, you read some of these reports, and you wonder how somebody can botch a missed approach, fall short. I have to wonder if somebody doesn't fly a lot of IFR, maybe they haven't flown in a few months, get into the airplane, and they fly an approach, and maybe it's not what they expected. Now they're switching approaches on the fly. You think Smart Charts can help? As a flight instructor, we can argue this either way, right? Folks are usually good with what they know. Traditional charts have been around for
like we talked about, 90 years, right? And so it's hard to argue that. But what I would argue, the reason Smart Charts makes it easier, no longer are we perusing all of these notes that you may miss that are all over the chart. They're not always a standardized location. No longer do we have to look at all of these different sets of minima. What minimum am I going to today because of this equipment outage, either on board or outside the airplane? It gives you the information that you need when you need it in a very succinct way. And so in my opinion, that is why it makes it safer. We give you the briefing tab. When you're briefing, you see the brief tab. You see the details tab if you want to see everything. If you're tuning frequencies, you no longer have to look around to say, hey, or a great one is, well, am I using a local AWAS to set an altimeter, or am I using maybe an airport close by because it's not a 24-hour tower, for instance? And so now I'm not looking around for all these frequencies. You see the ones that you need when you need it. And in my opinion, that's how we're going to make instrument flying safer going forward.
Yeah. Let's switch to experimentals.
Okay.
And, we're getting ready to fly this Vans RV-12, and we ended up with a Garmin G3X Touch. But, for somebody building an airplane and they're not sure what they want for avionics, they're not sure how they want to equip the panel, what advice do you have for somebody starting fresh slate? And it's different from equipping some of these existing airplanes. Where do you start?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the avionics come later in the build process for most folks, too, if you really think about it.
Well, not really.
They shouldn't, but I think a lot of people
should be thinking about,
yes,
what avionics you're going to do, even if you're a few years out, because there's stuff you're laying in the airframe along the way. So
I agree.
What logic should you bring to the table when you're planning a panel?
That's a great question. I think, we have so many different solutions in an industry for what avionics could go in your panel. And at Garmin, we have so many solutions. I really think it boils down to what kind of flying are you doing? Are you flying IFR or VFR? Are you flying a lot of higher IFR? How much panel real estate do you have, right? The RV-12 actually has a nice, generous panel. You could put a couple 10-inch displays in and a navigator in the center and still have room for a mode controller or for the autopilot, etc. But let's say you're in a more concise panel. Hey, a couple G5s, a GMC 507 mode controller for the GFC 500X autopilot. Looking at what fits in the panel and what capabilities do you want. Things like, do you want VNAV in the airplane? So does that mean you need a GTN series navigator because you want fully coupled VNAV with the autopilot? Do you want ADS-B weather in, or maybe you want Sirius XM as well? The advent of Starlink is coming. So, hey, what does that mean? Now where do I put my iPad to maybe view internet-based services? So all of that kind of comes into play when we look at the panel. And then, panel real estate's a big one. A lot of folks come in the exhibit. We have these cool panel planners this year, Larry, in the exhibit. They've got magnetized instruments, and you can throw our solutions around on a panel and see what it may look like. The panel cutouts are for bonanzas, but you could use it for experimental, too, and size it down. And I think the big thing is, another question we get asked a lot, should I do a panel-mounted audio panel, a panel-mounted radio, or should I do remote mount, right? Maybe a remote mount transponder to take away that piece out of the panel, put it maybe into the tail of the airplane or back behind the baggage compartment, for instance, behind that panel, and then run those pieces through a G3X touch flight display, through a GTN XI series navigator. Those are all a lot of questions we get asked, and tools that you have in your toolbox to save real estate, to maybe make that panel cleaner, and integrate a lot of the solutions through a single box, right, like a G3X or a GTN navigator. So those are just some of the things that I would be thinking about if I was building an airplane. And like you said, early in the game, we got to build a harness. You're going to have autopilot servos out in the wings, back in the tail, maybe a magnetometer back in the wing, back in the tail. A lot of considerations here when we're building the airplane. And so, it's not just all about capabilities, too. It is also about the build. As you know, you just went through it.
So switch gears to big airplane stuff. 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago, Garmin announced G3000 Prime. And it's an update to the integrated G3000 for the turbine market. And now you've introduced G5000 Prime?
We have at the
What's that
Paris
all
Air
about?
Show. Yeah, great question. So we announced G3000 Prime, or our Prime series now of integrated flight decks, back just after Oshkosh last year. And we were very proud to announce it on some very cool airplanes. PC-12 Pro came out. And most recent announcement for that was G5000 Prime on the D328 Eco. So a Part 25 airplane. People may remember the Dornier 328 from years past. Very prolific turboprop regional airliner and then jet airliner back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's being reincarnated in Europe through Deutsche Aircraft, and so they're going to feature the G5000 Prime integrated flight deck, which, Larry, it's all touchscreen. you have not only touchscreen flight displays, but touchscreen secondary display units, or SDUs, instead of old key-driven FMS units down below. And it's an incredibly powerful system. If you're at the show, you're watching the segment, you're at the show, you can come see G3000 Prime in our exhibit. We'd love to have you touch it, feel it, see what it could be like potentially in a new airplane of whatever you're flying out there, maybe even the D328 Eco. But we're very proud to expand the Prime platform all the way up into the Part 25 market for sure.
And speaking of big displays, you've also introduced a big 12-inch display. What's the application there, and where does it fit?
Yeah, that's a great question, Larry. I think, people look at glass and they say, oh my gosh, can I put more glass in the airplane? Can I fit a bigger flight display in my panel? For a lot of these airplanes we're talking about now, even like a Cessna 185 like we have in our exhibit right now, or even a PC-12, King Airs, the CJ1 and CJ2 that were coming out, just came out with solutions for those airplanes. They have a lot of panel real estate. And so we're hopeful that our new 12.1-inch TXI display gives them more real estate to look at pertinent flight information, look at charts more clearly, not pan around on the charts as much, and just give them a clearer picture of the information that they need to fly the airplane because they have the panel real estate to do so. And the price point is such that, especially with those airplanes, for a couple $1,000s more, you can get that bigger flight display and see more information out of it. When you compare the 12.1-inch display with our 10.6-inch TSI display or our 7-inch display, it is a lot bigger, and I think it's going to show you that information more clearly as well.
What other announcements have you guys had? It's been shotgun past week or so. What did we miss?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like I mentioned earlier, 11 announcements in July. The team has been working extremely hard, not only on the sales and marketing side, but the engineering teams at home, human factors, the test side, flight test side, and everybody else in between. It's just been an incredible effort this July. One thing we announced last week, hard to say, or hard to believe, rather, that we announced our first DME product, the 450R.
That's what
and the
it was,
4500.
DME.
Yeah, DME.
We thought DMEs were long gone.
Yeah.
But they're still a need.
There's still a need. DME solution for navigation for a lot of airplanes, especially in the higher realms. Or if we talk about what's going on with GPS spoofing in the world and still having navigational means, DME still has a place in the world. Not as much so in the U.S. as it does internationally as well. If you really think about GA, Europe still uses DME quite frequently. And so we now have solutions to bring to not only the GA market, but if you need a more hardened solution, environmentally hardened solution, we have that for the bigger aircraft too. And we're just really proud that, again, you look at Garmin and you say, wow, we make so many products. What have we not gotten into yet? And it's hard to believe that DME is one of those things, and we're proud to offer a solution to the market now.
Any ADFs in the future?
Oh, my gosh. Wow. You can answer the question, Larry. Wow, ADFs.
I hope not.
We all know how to use them because we all fly instruments, but I'm not sure that's one we'll get into.
What we're talking about is another concern, I think, that a lot of folks upgrading have, and that's, like you say, losing GPS. What are your thoughts on adding a traditional NavCom to the airplane or a traditional VHF nav? Just a couple of years ago, all GPS. You could pull those NavComs out. What concerns might you have about feeling naked with just a couple of GPSs and not being able to shoot a raw data ILS approach?
Yeah, Garmin is a GPS company. It was kind of in our founding, and our founders were huge believers, and that's where we've rested our laurels. But I will say that pulling that traditional ground-based nav out of your airplane, there are some considerations like now GPS spoofing we have going on in parts of the world. And then, ILSs, I would rather shoot an ILS than a RNAV approach a lot of days if it's available. With our autopilot, it's so easy to just stay in magenta needles, if you will, and fly an RNAV approach. But, geez, an ILS is still kind of that primary approach around the world. And having that capability is incredible. I have it in my Mooney with a 750XI Navigator. But you're right, Larry. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things going on in the world about that. We are obviously looking into it, and the DME is a great way that we're coming out with, hey, we're combating against that type of activity too.
Well, we've been babbling here sitting in these chairs. There's some cool stuff to look at, and it's a pretty nice-looking Bearhawk behind us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Want to wander over?
Let's wander over the Bearhawk 5 here from Aaron and Paul. It's a beautiful airplane. I'd love to show it to you.
Yeah, it's worth looking at.
Okay.
Come on.
So this is Aaron and Paul's Bearhawk 5. Don't have the Avionics powered on right now, but we can absolutely do that here with Flip the Master on and the Avionics on there, and it'll power up. This airplane was just finished in the last week. It's one of four beautiful airplanes in our exhibit right now. You see a lot of our great solutions here. Dual 10-inch G3X flight displays, a GTN 750XI navigator, GTR 20, a remote mount radio behind those G3Xs, and then the GFC 500X autopilot. It also has AOA. Big backcountry airplane. Having AOA is a great thing, too, to fly off of that on approach. And we're just really proud of this. Aaron and Paul did a great job building it down at the Bearhawk factory in their Build Assist program. And then with our Avionics panel, this is just a 155, 160 knot backcountry airplane. So not only a traveling airplane with 4 big seats and a baggage compartment, but all the capability to fly at IFR and do hard cross countries as well.
Yeah. What else is in the display here worth looking at?
Yeah, great question, Larry. So behind us here, Trent Palmer finished earlier this year a Legend Nomad Cub. So it's a Rotax-powered Legend Cub. Such a gorgeous airplane. He has a few hundred hours on it now. Just finished a trip up to Alaska and back. And, we're just so happy that he allowed us to have it in the exhibit. Another experimental airplane, right? So the experimental kind of revolution continues, and he built it down at the Legend factory. But, again, shows the power of what the G3X touch flight display with some integrated radios, including the transponder and the radio, and then having an autopilot in it. He's got hundreds of hours in this, and a lot of them are cross-country. He just flew from his home in northern Nevada all the way up to Alaska and then to Oshkosh. A lot of those hours are on the autopilot, and so you think of a big Cub or a Super Cub, why do you need an autopilot? Well, these airplanes are going cross-country now, and so it makes your life a lot easier and kind of takes some of the mental strain off of you, the physical strain too, flying the airplane. And then when you do want to land in the backcountry and go camping after a long couple-hour cross-country, you've got the capacity to do it. So just a super cool airplane and very well equipped.
We talked about experimental airplanes, experimental avionics, and the buying decision. How can the experimental world help somebody flying a certified airplane? So I think where I'm going is, you take an experimental Bearhawk like this, loaded top to bottom with Garmin gear. Yep. You got an old Mooney or an old Cessna or whatever. Yep. How can these airplanes, where you've got a lot more regulatory leeway, how does it help somebody flying a certified airplane?
It's a great question, Larry. I'm a huge believer in the experimental market. I'm a huge believer in the vintage market, too.
I know you are, and that's why I asked.
Yeah, and I think, big thing, if you look at Garmin, the history, especially since the early 2010s, we came out with a G5, which is a prolific flight instrument, and we came out with a G3X touch flight display, and those have lived on for over 10 years now. They started in the experimental world. We certified those products, brought them into the certified world at a very fair price point, brought that technology to airplanes like mine, a 1971 Mooney that otherwise I may have not pulled out the vacuum system. I may have relied on the old vacuum pump and DG and attitude indicator, and now I have GI 275s, which if you look at it, we evolved from the G5 to the 275, and offer still both of those products for sale today. And we brought those great capabilities into the certified world out of the experimental world. And Team X at Garmin does just such a wonderful job of still being on the bleeding edge and designing kind of what's next and what's out there. And then we brought it into the certified world, and we're just very proud of that at Garmin.
Yeah. And the other thing you're doing here at the exhibit is databases and a discounted database subscription.
Yes.
So
yes.
How's that work?
It's a great question. Databases. We'll start with this. Databases aren't the coolest thing that are offered in the aviation world.
Well, but they are confusing.
They are.
And whether you fly VFR or IFR or everything in between, with all the data running around in these suites, the big question is, what do I need for subscriptions? Do I need Jepson charts? Do I get the Garmin charts? What do I need, and how do you make that decision?
And we're helping folks do that right here at our database desk inside. $100 discount for customers, and then if you're a new customer, Larry, additional discounts on top of that $100 here after you get the help in deciding what you need. So do you want the Garmin flight charts, or maybe do you want to upgrade to a chart enablement and use Jeppesen charts? You have that option. Do you just need a navigation database, or do you want a one-pack that covers all this for multiple instruments? Do you just have a G3X flight display for VFR flying like you, or are you doing hard IFR flying with a navigator and a flight display and where you need the charts? Our folks, our database experts back here in our exhibit this week can not only help you save money, hard to believe in aviation, save money on a product, but also decide which one is right for you and your airplane and your type of flying, most importantly.
Did you hear that? He said Garmin's going to help somebody save money.
and it is a bold claim, but Larry, we're doing it right inside here in Oshkosh 2025.
Yeah. Anything else we need to talk about? It's our annual sit down. What do we got? What do we miss?
I think
probably a lot, right?
I think I'd like to close with, I really do believe these products they make flying safer, right? We're solid state instruments and all the capabilities out there and all the information. If you haven't flown behind our products or seen them, please stop by. Please fly in your neighbor hangers or your hangar neighbor's airplane and go see what it's all about. And then secondly, if you haven't come to Oshkosh, please come to Oshkosh. It is kind of the mecca of aviation, and there's so much to learn, so many people to see, so many airplanes to see. But like Paul Poberezny, you say, you come for the airplanes, but you keep coming back for the people. And I appreciate seeing you every year, Larry. It's always a fun segment.
And I'll close with saying, if you're trying to make an avionics buying decision, this is a perfect place to come get a demo. Get a good demo, get a thorough demo, make sure you get along with the system. And I think that's where a lot of consumers tend to fall short, is they don't really know what they're buying. And I think it's a setup for remorse.
And our sales folks will be happy to walk you through the kiosk or do a demo on your own. You can see all the products side by side. We've got kiosks that show every single one of our products inside, and you can really get a look at, again, there's a lot of options. So you can find the option that works for you and your airplane and your type of flying. And like you said, really do your diligence in the buying process, and we can help you with that here at Oshkosh this year.
What else?
Larry, I think the big thing is we talked about experimentals a lot. We talked about the certified world a lot, but the vintage world too. It's a world that I'm really passionate about, and bringing those airplanes up to speed. Of course, last year we had two gorgeous airplanes from Stevie Triesenberg, a 140A and a Bonanza. I think if you buy one of those airplanes, a vintage airplane like a 140, you may not be flying it in hard IFR a lot. You may fly it in some light IFR, but maybe not as hard IFR. But you can still get so many great capabilities in a vintage panel for a pretty cost-effective point. You can still get a WASH GPS in there and maybe a single G5 or GI-275 for very good value. ADS-B ADS-B, hard to believe, it's been out for almost 15 years now, maybe a little longer than that. And our solutions can not only help you get ADS-B compliant, but also 345 transponder pulls in that ADS-B traffic, and so you can display that through Bluetooth and Garmin Connect services to your iPhone, your iPad, what you're flying with. So we have solutions for every kind of airplane and a lot of helicopters. You can see them all here.
It's all inside. Kyle Ludwig at Garmin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it a lot.
Time.
It's happening. Okay. It's happening. Let's go. It's happening. Let's go. Get the bag. Get the bag. Yeah. What?
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a red bird near you and fly like you've been there before.
Next. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Trashed.
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a red bird near you and fly like you've been there before.
This is Ryan Ewing from Flying Magazine, and first up today we're going to be talking to South Georgia Tech, so we'll go ahead to talk about them. Okay. Just kidding. We have Chair Jennifer Hamady here from the National Transportation Safety Board. Jennifer, thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
Really appreciate you coming along and talking with us about safety, something I think you know a few things about.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, the first thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's been a hot topic in mainstream media, but also, of course, in the aviation space is runway incursions. And in 2023, the FAA recorded 23 serious runway incursions. Some of them were pretty high profile. They made a lot of news. What recommendations has the NTSB made about runway incursions? And can you talk a little bit about some of this technology that's on the market and what you all kind of have recommended the FAA for that?
Yeah, and just to sort of set the stage on where things are on data, FAA collects data on the runway incursions, and of course, overall data on runway incursions is up and down every year. It's generally around 1,600, 1,700 every year. But the most serious ones, the Category A and B, as you mentioned, was 23. Those are down from where they've been over the last couple of years. With that said, it only takes one, which is why, and I think this is an important point, a lot of people wonder why the NTSB investigates incidents and not just accidents. The reason why we do incidents is so we can learn about them and prevent a future accident from occurring. And so you mentioned some of our work and our recommendations. Our oldest recommendation, which stems back to 2000 regarding runway incursions, is technology that directly alerts pilots of a potential problem, and not just air traffic control. And that's where we want to see some redundancy. Certainly there's technology for air traffic control, the older technology like ASDX. Some of the newer technology we have some concerns about. We're looking at this in a runway incursion in Nashville where the newer technology to ASDX does not actually alert air traffic control there's no oral alerting feature at all for air traffic control on that. So that's something we're really taking a look at in that investigation. But in order to provide redundancy, we believe that technology needs to be available to pilots in the cockpit.
Got it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the technology to sort of mitigate the risk of runway incursions, that's been on the NTSB's most wanted list, per se, for quite a while. I kind of want to ask you, do you feel like they're making progress, as there's progress is being made in that front?
Well, I do think with development of the technology, one of those technologies I had just seen in the past couple of weeks, I'm going to see another one in August. So now we're having more and more competitors developing that technology, making it available. Previously, FAA had responded that it wasn't available. Now it is, and now we want them to act on it.
Got it. So shifting a little bit to training, we have the industry as a whole, particularly on the Part 121 side. It's no secret there's a greener workforce entering the market. It's not a bad thing, but it's younger, it's newer, it's fresher. I want to talk to you about, because I know you mentioned in one congressional hearing at one point about sort of this death by PowerPoint or whatever you want to call it. But what do you guys feel, is the best way to kind of adopt training standards to this younger crowd?
Yeah, so I think what we really have relied on in aviation is that death by PowerPoint. That's that computer-based computer-based training. Not everyone learns that way. Some people are hands-on, and what we really need to look at is the research out there with how people learn. And it differs by individual. What's the best way to teach? Right now we are engaging with air traffic control, and they're not remembering pretty significant trainings that they had a week ago or a month ago. That's a problem.
Right.
So, in order to have good training standards, we really need to look at how do people learn best, and then providing that training to the point of muscle memory.
Right. Do you think, I think during COVID there's been quite a bit of retirements of more senior workers. Do you think that at all kind of contributes to, a bit of incidents or safety occurrences would be the term, just because there's maybe the lack of long-standing knowledge. And so, do you all kind of see that in some data, or have you seen a spike coming out of COVID from that?
Well, I think there's definitely a newer workforce, and I think that is true everywhere. It's true for the NTSB. And for us, that's looking at what is our training providing, how has our workforce changed? Do they have that historical knowledge that has been there with a lot of the more senior tenured individuals, and it has that historical knowledge passed on to them? So we are seeing that, and I think that's true in the aviation industry as well. And something we looked at in the Alaska 1282 door plug blowout was that newer workforce at Boeing and that need to do training, and to look at that as that does create some opportunities with a new workforce, but also create some challenges, and doing a really good safety risk assessment and including that, and figuring out where you need to go and make sure your workforce is up for the job.
Gotcha. Got it. So shifting to, again, another hot topic, as we like to talk about here, pilot mental health in aviation. Sort of how does the NTSB view sort of the current balance between maintaining safety and ensuring pilots feel like they can get help or potentially face a career-ending move?
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty blunt here. I think there needs to be a complete overhaul on FAA and how they view not just mental health and address mental health. I mean, mental health, healthcare is healthcare. Doesn't matter if it's mental health or if it's physical health. It needs to be treated the same, but the way the FAA operates, it's like back to the 1950s. And, what we're seeing in mental health and how the FAA treats it, it's really a symptom of something bigger. They need a complete overhaul of how they deal with medicals in general. You'll hear the FAA say, only 1% are denied. Come on. All of us have heard the stories, and what we don't want is a situation where a pilot feels like they have to lie to fly.
Got it, yeah. So, kind of with the NTSB...
Can I add something to that? I really find the one question on the application for medical just insult. It's unbelievable that you even ask. Has any time in your life have you ever experienced depression or anxiety?
Right.
Which one of us could say no to that? Come on.
Right.
Anyways, go ahead.
No, you're good. Would the would the NTSB sort of support reforms to the FAA's sort of medical certification process that reduce these sort of stigmas in the industry? It sounds like the answer to that is yes.
Absolutely. I mean, they formed an aviation rulemaking committee which came out with 40-something recommendations, or great recommendations. What I don't want to see is another report out there and then shelved.
Yeah.
They need to take action.
Do you think they're moving quick enough?
No, they are not. What we're not talking about here is, people just generally jump to things like German wings and think, the worst of the worst. Most people, they have regular struggles. You're going through a divorce. You're, somebody's sick in your family. And, of course, you need to be able to seek health care and mental health care. And people tend to point at the larger airlines, which have some peer programs. But sometimes you need professional help, and those peer programs are not really available for GA pilots. So there needs to be a real shift.
Do you, sort of my last point on this, but do you think Congress needs to step in and take some action on this, too, to push that ball forward, or do you think it needs to be exclusively regulatory?
I don't think we're going to get anywhere where it's regulatory. I think people are going to sit on it. It's going to take 7, 8, 10 years. I'll be collecting Social Security by the time we're going to see action. I think Congress does need to take action, and there are a lot of folks in Congress. I mean, you look at Sam Graves, who's a pilot, who's head of Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and he's done a lot for medical reform, and, I think more can be done.
Yeah. Do you all see? I promise this is my last question
no,
on this, but
it's
it's a great, it's a really hot topic and important. And like you look internationally, do you see other countries, other nations, other regulatory bodies making progress while we're sort of behind the 8 ball in regards to pilot mental health?
Not really. I think in some countries it's even worse, and so. We do have to look at it more broadly, but I think the United States is a leader on safety. There's no reason we can't be a leader here, and we should.
Got it. So moving on to general aviation safety, we're here at Oshkosh, Mecca for aviation. It's
very exciting,
very exciting, and I want to talk about general aviation accidents kind of remain a major contributor in overall aviation fatalities. I think in 2023 there was 1,200 accidents reported and 300 fatalities. I mean, that's still a pretty big number. So, what are the trends or causes the NTSB continues to observe in this general aviation space for deadly accidents?
Yeah, well, I will say the numbers are going down. I mean, that is certainly nothing to celebrate until you're at zero, but they are going down. And trending down, and have been for the last decade, both in terms of totals and then fatalities and injuries. But again, we have a number of recommendations. I mean, 40%, if you look at our data, are loss of control in flight. And a lot of that, and the NTSB is really working with the stakeholder community and on a joint safety committee to really bring awareness on training.
Right.
I mean, training is something that we think needs to be highlighted, because in the loss of control in flight, we're seeing concerns with aircraft control and airspeed management, and we believe training can help on that. Certainly awareness, and we're working with the GA community to get the word out.
Got it. So let's talk about, in that sort of same vein, let's talk about safety management systems, something you all have advocated for a long time. Part 121 carriers have to use them. They're starting to be more adopted at charter, Part 135, airports, that sort of thing. But, do you think an SMS system could help with higher risk GA activities?
I do. I mean, all across transportation, we recommend SMS, no matter the mode. And even if you are looking at it from your daily life, let's say, I'm driving my car, what are the risks? And how do you address those risks? That is something anybody can do, anticipating those risks, planning for how you're going to mitigate them. There's risk in everything we do. But there's no reason why even a single individual can't do safety management.
Right. So I want to talk, finally on the general aviation side, ADSB has become much more, I think a lot of people who aren't in aviation recently have found out what that is.
Yeah.
But, what other technologies, in addition to ADSB, do you all kind of see as being useful to prevent, serious accidents in the general aviation space?
Well, certainly, and I'll just highlight on ADSB, when ADSB out was mandated in certain classes of airspace, we commented that ADSB out is fine, and we support that, but we also need ADSB in. And we've investigated other accidents where we've made similar recommendations, like when I was in Ketchikan, and there was a mid-air collision of two float planes, and they were tour planes or tour operations, and it was very tragic, but that's something we recommended there, and we've recommended it for years. So we've got ADSB in. We've recommended, like I mentioned, the direct pilot alerting for runway incursions. We've recommended something along the lines of ASDX, and of course we're not seeing that same performance of the newer technologies that are going into air traffic control towers around the U.S. And would like to see that upgraded. But we have recommended so much on technology, collision avoidance. We're going to talk about at our hearing, which is coming up next week, actually, on the DCA mid-air collision. Yeah. And we're going to have an entire panel where we really focus on collision avoidance technologies. So we do have a number of recommendations on technology. When we do an investigation, we look very broadly, man, machine, and the environment.
Got it. Well, that's actually a great stepping off point, because next week is sort of your hearing on the DC accident. But, I want to talk broadly about the symbiosis, I guess is the term I like to use, between military aviation and, Part 121, or really any civilian activity. There was an incident yesterday. Don't expect you to comment on it, but I'm sure we've all seen it in the news.
B-52.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, what recommendations can you give to the DoD or the FAA to sort of work that out? Because, on either side of that coin, you have, like we've talked about, newer workforce, or other stuff going on, and what recommendations can we use to blend military and civilian safer?
Yeah, I mean, there does have to be a blending because you're both sharing the skies. Right. That is something that is going to be a key focus of our hearing next week. So just for folks that are listening, we're having a 3-day hearing. It starts on Wednesday, the 30th, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And these are investigative hearings. They are geared towards us developing more factual evidence related to the DCA mid-air collision. We have collected over the last 6-7 months a lot of evidence, but this is another step in the process to collect additional factual data. That morning at 9 a.m., we are going to release our entire docket. You can find that at ntsb.gov. That means all our evidence so far will be available publicly. And then we'll have 9 to 7. We're going to do 2 panels that day, really focused on specifics of that collision and operations in the DC airspace, which includes the sharing of not just military aircraft, civilian aircraft, but also there are a number of other helicopter operators in that area, in that airspace, hospitals, healthcare, news agencies, you name it. And other departments as well. So we're going to look at that, and then we'll have on the 31st 2 more panels from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then we'll have a third day on August 1st it'll start at 9. We'll see how long we need to go, probably half day, but it could be more. I want to make sure everybody has their opportunity to ask questions. So our technical staff from our investigators will ask questions, the board will ask questions, and then parties to our hearing will also ask questions. So it's a pretty in-depth process. And then our intent or expectation will be that we'll complete that we'll complete the entire investigation and have a board meeting next January.
Got it. Well, Chair Hamady, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks
for being here at
Ryan.
Oshkosh. It's a beautiful day out, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Now we're going to talk to our folks at South Georgia Tech.
All right. Thanks for joining us here on Oshkosh Live. If you guys want to introduce yourself, talk about your career in aviation and your role at South Georgia Tech.
I'm John Watford, president of South Georgia Technical College. I've worked here for 35 years. I've been president for 9. I'm not an aviation person per se. I was a former computer programming instructor here at the college, but aviation is at the heart of everything this college is about. All of our streets are named after something related to aviation. Our NJCAA teams are the Jets and the Lady Jets. Our printed schedule is called the flight plan, and it's an integral part of what this college is. So I'm privileged and thrilled to be part of South Georgia Tech's aviation legacy.
Victoria Heron, aviation maintenance instructor here at South Georgia Tech. I teach the airframe portion, and I have taught the general portion as well. I've been in South Georgia Tech for 16 years as of July the 9th, and I'm very proud to be here and be a part of this. And I'm a graduate of South Georgia Tech. Whenever I graduated, I worked for industry for 8 years, and then I've been here for the last 16 years.
I'm Andrew Daniel. I'm a current employee at Delta Tech Ops in their engine shop. I went to South Georgia Technical College and graduated in 2024 and started at Delta right away in October of 24.
I guess I kind of want to start this line of questions with, can you guys talk a little bit about the key components of your aircraft maintenance program, the curriculum, and how does it balance sort of theoretical instruction with hands-on training?
So the aviation maintenance program at South Georgia Tech, we're a 2-year program. The students go through, we have it broken down into 3 sections. your general airframe and power plant. You're with the general portion is 6 months, and then you have a section of airframe that's 9 months, and then you have another section of power plant that is 9 months long. Once the students have gone through the general and the airframe, they're eligible to get their airframe certificate and then move forward with their written and oral and practical. So potentially by the time, before they even start their power plant classes, they could have their airframe certificate.
Got it. Cool. So talk to me a little bit, how does the program sort of specifically prepare students for success on the A&P exam? And what is sort of your success rate if you just got a ballpark?
With the students who complete the program, it's 100% job placement. There's no, that our students have no problem with job placement because we have a good relationship with industry, and our students are prepared for the workforce once they're finished, because we not only, we have the FAA, the minimums that we are required to go by, but at South Georgia Tech, we do more than the minimums. Instead of just the basic, we go beyond. For instance, the overhaul for recip, the FAA only requires a cylinder removal and replacement. We actually go through a complete engine overhaul where they tear it down, mic all the internal parts to build it back up and run the engine.
Got it. Well, can you kind of describe, the facilities and if any specific aircraft or equipment students get to work on during their training?
I'll fill that one if it's okay, Victoria. Yeah. We have one of the larger aviation facilities in the system. We are located here in South Georgia, but we are adjacent to the Jimmy Carter Regional Airport. Actually have access to that runway. But our aviation building is over 25,000 square feet, 6 labs, I believe, and classrooms. We also teach avionics and aircraft structural in that building as well. So we have equipment. We have planes that date back to World War II, as well as modern planes. We have a Gulfstream G2. We have a Learjet, Air King, and a couple of Huey helicopters, and then a more modern, is it a Bell helicopter that we have, Victoria?
Yeah.
So the lab and the facilities are well equipped. We've been aviation's been taught on this property since 1917. We were Army Air Corps training base in World Wars I and II. So equipment has been acquired over many years, and so we have a lot of equipment available to students to work on.
Great. So what type of sort of industry partnerships or co-op opportunities does South Georgia Tech offer for students?
Well, the students in aviation, we have a partnership with Delta, and Delta, of course, is in Atlanta, about a little over 2-hour drive, maybe 2.5-hour drive from Americus. But we have on-campus housing. So not anybody in the state, anybody in the country can come and live here and learn and work on their A&P. But Delta is a very good partner. They hire our graduates. They keep our instructors informed on the latest technologies and procedures for of course, for what they're doing. We also have a partnership with Delta in our electronics program because they hire bench technicians from our electronics program. But we have partners with Gulf. We're partners with Gulfstream. Gulfstream hires our graduates. Gulfstream is in Savannah, which is about 3 hours away, and several smaller airports and manufacturers in Georgia as well. So we're Standard Aero in over in East Georgia is one of our partners that hire a lot of our graduates.
Got it. So I guess beyond the technical training, what support services are available to students, to ensure their overall success, from academic assistance to career services?
We have a full complement of opportunities for students. Aviation maintenance is a rigorous program, and as Ms. Herron said, the success rate of our graduates is 100%. They will get employed when they graduate. The process may take a couple of shots, a couple of tries in some courses. We have tutoring available. Our instructors, our classes are small enough, and our student to teacher ratio is small enough that the instructors work closely with the students. So if there's a math deficiency or some area where the student needs help, the instructor can help them one-on-one, or they can refer them to a tutor. We have tutors available, tutoring labs, a lot of opportunities for students to get that type of help. We also have a financial aid office. Our tuition is $107 per credit hour. And Georgia residents, of course, can come on the HOPE grant, and we offer the Pell Grant as well. Since the tuition and fees are so affordable, we do not offer student loans. We don't want our students to graduate with enormous debt. So we work with them very closely to try to make sure that when they get that great job with a great company working in the airline industry, that they're not saddled with debt when they graduate. And we also offer free books. We don't charge. We don't have a bookstore. We have a bookstore, but we don't have where the student has to go buy their books. The college owns the books. We pass them out at the beginning of the semester, take them back up at the end. So that cost is eliminated for the student as well.
Gotcha. Great. So kind of tell me a little bit about the primary mission requirements for the aircraft maintenance program.
Well, we do not, at South Georgia Tech, we don't have an entrance exam per se, but so the requirement is, before they can get their certificate, they have to be of 18 years of age and, have gone through a 147 score, have had the training in order to get the sign off. But as far as coming into the program, we really don't have like an entrance exam for that.
It's open admission. So when you come and apply, you can get in the program.
Got it. So I guess my last question for you all here is, what sets South Georgia Tech apart from other similar programs around the country? And what is your kind of overarching mission?
I would like Drew to chime in on this one because he is a former student and he competed at National Skills USA and won last year. So Drew, could you kind of chime in on this question for us?
You're going to get more personalized education at South Georgia Tech, as well as they're more equipped with more equipment, and they have the ability to teach different things that other schools don't, just because they don't have the right tools.
Got it. I'd like to hear from all of you on this one, actually. If Dr. Wyfer, you want to go next?
Yeah, we are different. And Victoria mentioned that we don't just do the minimum that's required. We want to prepare the student for what they're going to see when they get in the actual industry. And she had a perfect example of the engine rebuild. The engine has to run for the student to be able to pass the class. That's not a FAA requirement. That's a South Georgia Tech curriculum requirement. And there are many other opportunities like that the student has to be excellent. The fact that we have on-campus housing, the fact that we have such a history with aviation at this campus. Victoria is one of 5 full-time instructors we have in the A&P part, and at least 3 of those instructors came to South Georgia Tech. The neat thing is that they were taught by instructors who were taught by instructors, and we can go back 5 generations of instructors back to the 1940s. That culture has persisted. South Georgia Tech embraces occupational education. We are considered a 2-year technical college, or we are a 2-year technical college, but we are not our mission is not transfer. Our mission is workforce education. We are training students to go to work in the industry. So we don't get sidetracked with superfluous things. And it allows our instructors and our students to stay focused on that goal of getting all the skills they need to be able to go work in the airline industry.
And I know that our aviation program, the instruction is spot on, And you're not just, the student's not just a number. We actually care because that's the best advertisement for our program is the quality student that we put out there. The companies, once they hire our students, they invest in them, and they're just like, where did you come, what school did you go to? It was just the quality of student that comes out of South Georgia Tech is free advertisement for us. And, and we really embrace making sure that our students are ready for the workforce once they leave.
All right, Drew, why don't you talk a little bit about your transition from South Georgia Tech to Delta and, how that played out?
So after South Georgia Tech, I had a graduation as well as went to the program for my license. So I had to go to the after school. I had to go to a certified DME for the testing so that I could get my licenses. At that point, I was able to apply to Delta, which only became possible through my involvement with Skills USA. And then I was basically ushered through the doors that just opened for me. With the connections that I made and the hands that I was able to shake because of that Skills USA. So that got me into Delta way easier than any other way could have.
All right. Thanks to South Georgia Tech for chatting with us today. That was a really good discussion. Thanks to MTSU for sponsoring AirlineGeeks.com. And great time to be here in Oshkosh.
It's happening. Okay, it's happening. Let's go. It's happening. Let's go. Get the bag. Get the bag. Yeah. What?
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a red bird near you and fly like you've been there before.
I help people.
I create music. I shape the future.
I am an entrepreneur.
I inspire people with more than words.
I ride forward.
The sky is not my limit.
Find your blue at MTSU.
Next. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Trashed.
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a red bird near you and fly like you've been there before.
This is Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight. We are entering hour 3 of our extravaganza here from the world's largest aviation celebration. And a new face from the Firecrown Aviation Group joining us for this block. Please welcome Kayla McLeod, editor of Plane and Pilot. A very polite but not too loud round of applause for you.
Thank you, Sean.
What's up, Kayla?
Oh, man, what a great day to be starting Oshkosh 2025. It's just an amazing time already.
Well, I think I could spend the next 45 minutes talking about Kayla only for two things that I learned today. Number one, she drove 22 hours from Montana to be here, and she's camping amongst the people. So where to start unpacking that? Montana is home for you.
Yes, Montana is now home. I moved there in May. I'm originally from Georgia,
Yeah.
so quite the change, but it's been wonderful.
And so how did that road trip go?
Oh, it was awesome. Oh, my gosh. I was the passenger VIP princess sitting over there in that passenger seat in that truck. It was awesome.
And the vibe, obviously it's very early on. What's the vibe in the camping area like?
Oh, man. The vibe and just the overall ambiance in Camp Schiller is absolutely incredible. It is my favorite place to be, hands down. I've done the hotels. I've done the Airbnbs. I've done all of that. And by far, having your own camper, either driving it yourself or getting one from Outdoorsy or RV Share. If you want to fly in, it's the way to go. The ambiance is incredible. There's all these crazy cool vehicles in the campground whizzing by.
Yeah.
It's just so fun. You never know who you're going to meet.
I saw coming in on the campgrounds, like one dude, they were working out. They were out for their morning run. Another group was making a very beautiful bacon and egg breakfast. It's clear that this group of people know what they're doing. They come in and they're not really giving up their day-to-day schedule to do a part of it. They're doing everything they do at home just on the road.
Correct. I just did the same thing. I had my same blueberry waffles, my blueberries, my protein drink that I have every day right here in the campground at Oshkosh, a long ways from home.
Awesome. Well, as a Georgia native, that's a great segue to bring on our next guest. Maybe you want to tell us who our happy viewers at home are going to be meeting right about now.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking to Kevin Sasser of State Aerodrome. He is the owner, the visionary of this beautiful grass strip just 45 minutes south of Atlanta. It's where I learned to fly. I love this place. It's one of my favorite places on earth. So yeah, let's jump into it.
Welcome. Thanks for joining Oshkosh Live.
Thank you.
So maybe a boilerplate for all the people who maybe don't know about the Peach State Aerodrome. Maybe tell a little bit about what the project, kind of the scale and scope of the project.
So Peach State's a 3,000 foot grass runway south of Atlanta, GA2 on the identifier. It's comprised of a commercial side and a residential side. There's 31 home lots that are being developed, and then we're developing the commercial side with both rental hangars and then hangar homes, which is the really big deal that everybody's excited about and talking about. We have a restaurant, a grill. We do concerts on the weekends there, mechanic shop, gas available. And kind of our theme, big pictures, live, play, fly.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a little community south of Atlanta that we just love to play with.
Did you trademark hangarminium yet? I have not seen that phrase until I learned about your project, but I would go ahead and get a TM on that lickety-split.
I think they're ahead. Some people are ahead of me out maybe in California and Dallas area on all these hangarminiums.
But probably not on the outskirts of Atlanta,
right?
No,
we kind of have the exclusive to Atlanta for the hangarminium concept. So we'll say we've got it patented in Georgia.
Very cool. Very cool.
So I think the other really cool thing about Peach State is the youth aviation program there, the Ron Alexander Youth Aviation Program. Do you want to go into that just a little bit, Kevin?
So about 11 or 12 years ago, Ron Alexander, who we bought the airport from his estate, tragically due to his accident, and he had started with another gentleman the Ron Alexander Youth Aviation Program. It's comprised of classes and training for kids from like 14 to 19, I think, years old. They attend a workshop session set up inside of a hangar. They learn to work on airplanes. They do metal work, fabric work, engine work, and in exchange for that, every 10 hours of shop time that they get an hour of flying. And over that 10-year period, we have created 35 pilots now, 5 A&Ps, and a plethora of people that have gone on to do aviation-related things. It's kind of a cool program. Right now we have 50 kids in it. They meet Wednesdays and Saturdays. We're always looking for donations, Ron Alexander Youth Aviation Program, because that's what keeps it going is strictly donations.
Yeah.
So pretty cool.
So this was your stomping grounds, huh? This area is where so tell us a little bit about, it's kind of crazy that that's where it started, and here we are all these years later talking to someone down the block.
Absolutely. So I do not come from an aviation or a flying family. Literally one day I just decided, hey, I looked up in the sky, saw what I now know to be a Cessna 172, and I'm like, wow, that would be cool to learn how to fly an airplane. that next weekend, I was out at a Young Eagles rally at Peach State Aerodrome, and I went up, fell in love with it, and I was just head over heels. But the thing about aviation, like we all know, it's pretty expensive to get into it, especially at 16 years old. There's only so much grass I can cut, right? So basically, I was just like, gosh, how can I afford this? I was talking to the CFI that took me up, and he's like, oh, well, you go get a loan. And I was brought up on Dave Ramsey and not going into debt and all that good stuff, so that was just not an option. So anyway, lo and behold, my dad and I just kind of were walking around the airport after the flight, and there was this cute little yellow airplane sitting out on a hangar pad, and I went over to it, and in this hangar behind this J3 Cub were kids working, teenagers. And a gentleman brought my dad and I into the hangar and said, hey, like, this is, at the time it was called the Candler Field Museum Youth Aviation Program. This is what we do. Come join us. And that next week I signed up, and the next month I was at my very first Oshkosh 10 years ago. So this is my 10th anniversary. That's and awesome. It's been incredible. Ron Alexander was the one who taught me how to fly. And I owe so much to him, to the program, to Peach State. That is my home. Very passionate about it. So.
Yeah, but it's so cool to hear like that. Her story echoes of what you were just talking about.
Oh,
like
yeah.
That is a perfect segue.
Yeah, she was one of the OGs, the original gangsters.
Yeah,
they helped get us started. It was awesome.
That's incredible. So Oshkosh, clearly good mining here for people who are going to come down and check out the Peach State Aerodrome. So how does that work? What are your expectations for an Oshkosh? You're coming here to meet potential residents, clients. Like what do you hear? You're just or an ambassador for the brand, just getting the story out. What's this event mean for you?
Well, first and foremost, I come for me, of
course,
and my friends, and my brothers in aviation, and we have a house that 6 of us, 8 of us, depends on who's coming. Typically have rented for the last 15 years, and so it's more about the friendships. And but I have done the token poster pokes on the billboards, and I've got brochures and stuff. But this is a hard place to sell back into Georgia. So we talk about it a lot, but we've really had not a big problem attracting people to buy the hangars and to buy into the rentals and everything else. So I guess admittedly I come here to see the stuff and be with my friends and hang out with people that have the same interests that we have.
Yeah. So tell us about what the means for you as far as what you want to see. What are you always interested in checking out here? Are you a warbird guy, or you want to see these experimental aircraft? What are you about here, or all of it?
Yeah. So I like the booths. I like the new technology. I love to go to the warbirds. I think it's just everything. We have a golf cart, and we drive, which is kind of a privilege. Yeah. So we drive all the roads and just look at all the different airplanes. And I've got these old guys that are in my house with me. They know every airplane in the world. So it's very cool to say, well, that's a Waco. That's just, and all these things. And so when we have free time, we do that. And I don't know. It's just more the camaraderie than it is what airplanes are here.
Yeah.
And the air show's not bad. The night show's phenomenal. So that's kind of cool. But, yeah, it's just it's our vacation almost. Like a getaway and hang out with 7 or 8 guys that are dumb and ugly like me and just have fun. So, anyway.
Well, there's a lot of people here that want to fly down to Peach State. It's gotten a lot of traction online, on social media. A lot of influencers are flying down and checking out the Strip.
Right.
So if someone wants to, maybe they're going back home to Florida or maybe Tennessee, and they want to go grab a $100 hamburger, what do they need to know about flying into Peach State from Mr. Peach State himself?
Well, get on your Garmin G3X and hit GA2 direct enter, and come see us. But, it's a simple 3,000-foot grass strip. It's not that difficult. They're welcome to come. We'll make a courtesy car available, which will probably be my car, which we don't really have one. But they can camp if they want. We'll make room for them to camp. We don't do it, like, officially, but guys have come through on their way to Oshkosh back and forth. We have the cheapest fuel in the state. So they have nothing else. And if it's Wednesday through Sunday, come have a hamburger on us, and we've got the FBO with snacks and stuff, but we also have a great restaurant on site for them to recreate at and mess around. And like I said, if they want to camp, we'll make a place for them.
Awesome.
So.
Well, we want to say thank you for stopping by Oshkosh Live, and I'm sorry that we took you away from all the hijinks with your brothers and friends and getting in trouble. So thank you for being a professional and sitting up here. You make up for it. Kevin Sasser with the Peach State Aerodrome. Super cool project. Check it out online on Instagram and all the great places. And stay with us for more great content with me and Kayla on Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight. All right. We are moving from Peach State Hangar Miniums to
Flair Bourbon.
Georgia Bourbon?
Yep.
So this is another perfect segue. So, Kayla, who are we here with right now?
So this is Lee Hubner of Flair Bourbon. He's working with this amazing group of talented pilots and people down in the Atlanta area. And, yeah.
As much as I could talk about Flair, I could also talk about Peach State, which is one of our favorite. Peach State is really close to where we're based.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen Peach State, it's if you could draw like a postcard, what you could imagine it might look like, it looks like that. It's this beautiful little grass strip, the tall trees at one end. When you're coming in on final, you're sort of coming around final, you're flying down through the trees, and you're like, where am I? Like, it's magical. It's really a beautiful spot. So it was fun to listen to Kevin talk about it.
Very cool.
Knowing how much we as a family love going over there. So that was nice.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Perfect segue. Georgia all the way around here this morning.
Yep, and also I'm thrilled. I haven't been yelled at by anyone from EAA with my miniature Flair Bourbon delivery van over there.
Okay.
I feel like I'm not allowed to drive it. I got a bit of a side eye from an official. So I just kept driving. I figure if they can't catch me, I'm good. The delivery van can keep going.
So are you delivering bourbon to clients this week, Lee? What's the story behind
I think I've missed one of those, like a selling point. I could have been driving around in a miniature delivery van dropping off bourbon. No, that's just we have that in the booth, and it's fun.
I don't know if you can. I'm going to try to describe it. I'm a writer by trade, but what do you tell you? If you could just imagine a small ice cream cart. Oh, there we are. There it is.
There it is.
So, yeah, my writerly skills are not needed here. I think the picture gives you 10,000 words.
Yeah,
so
fun.
Really awesome, Lee.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that is filled with bourbon with a tap on the back that I could stick my head under.
That is exactly how it is. Come by the booth and bring a cup. No, I'm afraid not. But we're down near this. So going back a step, this is my first Oshkosh. My head right now, what is it, 9? It's whatever time it is on a Monday. My brain is, exploding.
So what was that like, flying in, your first Oshkosh? Tell everyone what you flew in.
Okay, I'll go back one little step.
For it.
Wednesday, I drove up from Georgia. We had to bring up, equipment for the booth. So I put in EAA Museum, I think I put in, and the GPS said you're still, 5 minutes from the museum. I could already see campers. I was next to campers, and I'm thinking, if I'm still 5 minutes from the museum, this place must be enormous. And that's when it started to dawn on me just how the scale of Oshkosh. So that was great. We dropped it off, and then Friday I flew our Cessna 195 back, and I was a little anxious. My first time into Oshkosh, you've seen all the conga line, and you hear the horror stories, and it was fantastic.
You nailed that yellow dot.
I mean, stay humble. I don't want to brag too much, but
I don't know. You put it all over Instagram, Lee.
Nailed it. Yeah. Better to be lucky than good.
Seeing that reflection, that yellow dot reflection in that gorgeous 195. Yeah. How long did it take you to polish that airplane for this week?
I was still polishing yesterday, Sunday afternoon. I could let you in on a secret. Don't look at the tops of the wings.
Okay.
They might be a little grubby.
Good to know.
But if you stand at the front, boy, it looks pretty. I was still giving it a good polish yesterday. We had the weather come through. I think Saturday night there was some showers, so it wasn't ideal. Lady K is the name of our 195. A little tip for the guys out there, or girls, if you name your airplane after your significant other, you increase the chances of getting that plane.
Solid.
So our 195 is named after Camilla. she's never sat outside before. So when she's sitting out in the rain, oh my God, my poor polished 195 with raindrops on her. But I think she's forgiven me. She's been polished. She looks beautiful. It's been fun.
Yeah. She's here at Oshkosh. She can't complain.
And on that arrival, I was maybe 60 miles south, and I was looking at my whatever device, thinking how remarkable is ADS-B that you can be painting a picture of what's going on so far out. And I really had a good experience coming in. You could see who's ahead of you, the controllers. That was amazing. Like, my first time coming in, being anxious, it was silky smooth. Like, they do a remarkable job here. Like, I'm overwhelmed with how the machine here works so smoothly. It's really something else.
It's incredible. I think I've flown in 6 or 7 times now, and I drove in yesterday. And
sorry.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, right.
I'll remember that. Oh my gosh! But we were driving down the road. Literally, we drove the arrival in, trying to get to the grocery store.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I was able to follow along.
How cool.
You know, along Rip and Fisk, the whole thing, and seeing it unfold in front of me. And I was like, wow! For the first time in so many years, I get to sit back, relax,
and just soak it in.
Right, and so it was actually, we were watching it, and it's a great conga line. Everyone's going in, and then all of a sudden, they started routing people out of the airspace. And I'm like, oh, something happened.
Something's gone wrong.
Something happened.
Yeah.
And that's the case. That's the big thing about flying into Oshkosh that I think it's super important for people to know. You have to come in here with more gas than you think. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Just like
that. And that was the NOTAM they put out is very good. Mm-hmm. It's well written and it's logical. If you just follow this, it's going to work.
Yep.
No problem. And that's how I felt like a bit of a nerd. I was studying it like it was for an exam. But arriving here, it all made sense. And I was prepared. If this thing happened, that's okay. I'm just going to go over there. And even, they're very good at describing the landmarks in the NOTAM. And sure enough, like, oh, yeah, there's the corner of the lake or whatever it is. There's the tower. It all made sense. So I would even say to someone who hasn't flown in, seriously consider it. Because when you turn there at Fisk, the controller said, do you want 09 or 36? I said, I'll take 36. This is very corny. It was like an oasis rising out of the ground when you start to see the campers and the runway and the tower. And as much as I'm trying to concentrate and fly the airplane, I'm also half looking at the window going, oh my God.
This is heaven.
And then you're on final just thinking, don't bounce, don't don't mess this up. And thank goodness I didn't, but it's just an amazing experience. I would encourage anybody, if you haven't flown to Oshkosh, at least once, do it.
Without a doubt.
I can't believe I've waited this long to come and do it. And it's fun with Flair Bourbon being Flair Bourbon's first time to be here. It's just one of those, I know this year is going to be something that we'll talk about for many years to come.
Yeah. I mean, you've done an awesome job plugging Peach State. You've done an awesome job plugging Oshkosh. I think it's time we start plugging Flair Bourbon and talking a little bit about your business and your brand and this awesome new product. So we were talking a little bit before the segment. I think a great place to start, which is pretty cool, you pioneering being the first liquor brand allowed here at Oshkosh. Man, tell a little bit about how the logistics of that go down.
We were approached at Sun and Fun. An EAA representative came along and said, you're going to come to Oshkosh. And we said, look, to the best of our knowledge, I don't think liquor, alcohol would be allowed. And he goes, yeah, that could be, you're right, let me look into it. And look, he was just a real champion where he said, what you're promoting is not reckless or careless. There is nothing more enjoyable than sitting in the hangar at the end of the day with your buddies sharing a drink. You come out on the flight line on that night air show and you will see people camped out under wings of airplanes sharing time together, sharing a drink. He seemed to understand what we were about. He understood what Flair represents. And he somehow, I don't know what he did and who he spoke to, but here we are. So
awesome.
It was pretty neat, really neat.
So where was the seed of this brand born for you? What's the origin story here with Flair?
The idea has been around for many, many moons. This idea of having a drink that speaks to us as aviators. If you think back, your first solo is a huge day in any pilot's life. You finally get your private license. You do your private check ride. And then there's instrument check rides and commercial all the way through until you retire. There's so many great moments. And I always felt like, where's that gift that we give to our buddy when they've achieved something in aviation? There's lots of other drinks for other celebrations. Where was the one that spoke to us? So that was the idea. Then living in Georgia, meeting the right people that had the skill set to distill the bourbon, the planet sort of aligned, and Flair came to life.
Beautiful.
And our saying that it makes sense to pilots, you finish every flight with a Flair. And all of a sudden you go, yep, I get it.
I
get it.
A winner for sure. So what are you looking forward to throughout the week here with Flairly?
We have met so many people that once they connect with what we represent, it's almost like meeting up with a friend. You know when you bond over something, if maybe it's an airplane, and you say, well, I own the same airplane, and you sort of almost become friends. I think that's what's been happening with us. Like, once it makes sense to people what Flair means, we have had so many great conversations. This maybe from a business standpoint, this is not a great idea. I think we've become friends with all of our customers, which, I don't know if that's how it's meant to work, but that's what's happened because we really have had great conversations. So as much as anything, it's meeting people, talking about it, let them see the bottle. There's so much hidden detail in there that pilots really get a kick out of.
Yeah, the label, the design is really well done.
Beautiful.
The common folk don't pick up on some of the detail, but the pilots look at it and get a kick out of it. So just to be able to stand down there and talk about it and share it, it's fun, really fun.
Hypothetically speaking, let's say one of the co-hosts today liked drinking bourbon,
Kayla,
and maybe even had a glass of it under their desk to help with nerves. Maybe for the bourbon nerds, tell us a little bit about the profile of Flair, how it's aged, some of that good nerdy bourbon nerd stuff.
I can tell you a few things. I can tell you some decisions we've made. We deliberately never released a mash bill or any tasting notes, a description, which we did debate back and forth as a group, but we are glad we didn't release any notes because we have had just the most wildly contrasting descriptions from people that say, well, I can taste, that must be a wheat bourbon or that must be a rye. They're confident of what it must be, and we never let on whether they're right or wrong because whatever you taste, whatever you smell, whatever you experience, if you enjoyed it, I just want you to enjoy it versus if I said it's a rye, you might say, well, I don't drink them. No, I'm not going to bother trying it. So you would have already made a decision before you tried it. So that was a decision we made, and we're glad we did that because I think it's allowed people to just have an open idea, open mindset, and try it, and if they like it, they like it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we've had very nice feedback.
It's like in the wine world, you'll be sitting there and someone's like, I'm getting hints of pencil and carrot. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Great.
I mean, I'm like, great juice.
There's been some really funny, incredibly creative, descriptive words. But in my mind, I'm thinking, what did you just say? Like, what does it even taste like? How could you know what that tastes like to compare it to my bourbon? But hey, if they enjoy it, that's okay.
And how long is that bourbon aged, Lee?
So one of the problems we have, we keep running out.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Running out of barrels?
Yeah, that's the problem. We didn't make enough 4 years ago. It's 4-year-old bourbon. This current batch, so basically if people come to the booth, what they're doing is reserving a bottle from the next batch so that they can get their hands on it. We did something fun with this next batch. 2 of the barrels are 4 years old. 1 of them is almost 6 years old. So it's still the same flavour. I would just say a richer flavour. And the colour also, too interestingly, is a little darker. But it's been, and I confess, I'm not the one that distills it. One of our other pilots is, and they are like mad scientists. Like they really sort of go down a rabbit hole of, well, the barrels have to be moved from the bottom to the top, and in 6 months we'll move them back. And I'm thinking, does that really make any difference? Yeah. But, you just do what the boss says. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's good fun.
So where we are live, so there might be some people here who's hearing about it. If they want to come find you, where are you located here at Oshkosh?
The booth number is 405, but I think the easy description is near the tower. We're near Snap-on Tools. Everyone seems to know where Snap-on Tools is.
Got that right.
Yeah.
I've been busy in the back of their tent nicking all the 10 mil wrenches. we're opposite the EAA International tent.
Okay.
Near Boeing Plaza, but look for the big shiny Cessna 195 and
Beautiful.
You'll find us.
Lee with Flair Bourbon, thank you so much for stopping
Thank you
by.
for having
I
us.
look forward to getting a taste of it. Ah, yes, the sounds of Oshkosh all around. Lee, thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Stay with us. More coming on Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight. All right. And we're rolling.
Let's go. Let's go. Get the bag. Get the bag. Get. What?
Life's better prepared, especially on the flight. Find a Redbird near you and fly like you've before.
Help people.
I create music. I shape the future.
I'm an entrepreneur. I inspire people with more than words.
The sky is not my limit.
Find your at MTSU.
So we're in 5 years.
Trashed.
Life's better when you're prepared. And on the flight deck. Find a Redbird near you and fly like you've been there before.
We back, Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight. Good to be back with you, Teresa, my Hour 1 co-host. A lot of great stuff coming. It's still here, day one. 3 more days of coverage to come. But first, we will throw you to a video of one of the very cool home-built aircraft chased here at Oshkosh. Check it out.
Brian's going to tell us about his Sling TSI. First question for you is, why did you choose?
You know, I've flown a lot of different airplanes, and the last airplane I had was a 210, and it was just more airplane that I really need. Finding the right fit of the mission, and reasonably fast, comfortable, efficient, and sensitive. You know, the 210 was like $1 an hour to fly it.
A lot.
And this is like, so I wanted to be a couple $100-hour-a-year pilot and rank the bank at $20,000 a year, a fraction of that with this.
Sure.
So, I mean, it just hit the right boxes.
And had you built?
I have never built an airplane.
So this is your first, I assume you worked on car.
You know, I've done mechanics and things like that. I've never built an airplane.
That's good. Well, to build.
You know, it's one of I built. It's easy to build. Skin. I mean, if it's up, you don't have it together right.
Right.
So putting it together was only there, and you followed the instructions, but line the holes up, and it's like, oh, okay, we'll put it together, and we built it home. So we have cars and things like that, and I'd be outside, door open, pulling rivets till night, and
didn't bother the neighbors.
No, didn't bother the neighbors at all.
How long from start to finish did it take?
We received the kit in July of 2020. I did first flight 4th of July last.
Okay.
So
3 years.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Take some time and point out some of the airplane.
Sure. So it's got the Rotex 9. That was the engine that was available at the time.
Right.
master prop would be, other than it's a standard Rotex engine, four-star cylinder gas if you need it to.
Sure.
A couple things that I've done on this, out here on the leading edge of the wing, I've added USB ports.
Oh,
as
wow.
well.
Okay.
So the and bottom, and I've got on the bottom of the, as well as on the vertical stable, some plans to do mountain flying videos, because I live in Colorado, I'm big on safety, and I'm what's out there that I'd like to help promote more safer flying mountain passes and things like that.
To look inside.
Absolutely. So we've got Fixes, which is pretty common, the Garmin 650, and then the G5. One of the things that I did add also, because the Rotex engine, I added a line. So, because sometimes you want to hunk the and I also have the obligatory pattern over on the right-hand side.
There you go. There you go.
So passengers on their toes. This does have the on it, as well as the bearing group, things like that. So there's some adjustments for that.
Right. Wow.
This particular got the back seat out because we needed the cargo space. Another thing that I also added on was oxygen concentrate.
Right.
The fun part about that configuration is it's not meant to be mounted because there's a physical button off.
Sure.
Some that was there's a device that on and off.
Okay.
So I can off with my phone from up. So if I'm out flying and I need oxygen, I kind of front seat, grab the cannulas. I have the center console.
Sure.
Get all. I don't have to worry about landing and adding.
So you fly with two people rather than
yeah. It's with all the missions we fly. It's very rare that I have more than one other passenger. During the 210 was like I've flown with more than 3 people.
Why you carry around all that
airplane? Yeah,
it's really very nice. Well, thanks very much. The look inside, it's a plane, and I see you're going to get it judged. So good luck on that.
Thanks.
Welcome back, and hope you enjoyed that video. That was a live from yesterday, and we are excited to introduce you to our nest.
You probably can't feel the vibe at home,
but we
certainly
can feel it, and it's exciting. That is just one of the best sounds of Oshkosh. And so anyways, excited to introduce our next guest. This is David Lowry. He is the leader of an aircraft company called Valkyrie Aircraft. And just a side story, several weeks ago when David out and said, hey, we're going to be coming to Oshkosh this year again, and I would love to, come you guys. I said, I remember your airplane, the Valkyrie. I remember when it was in the Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog in 2016. And he said, that was it. The company was different then, but that's the plane and that's the ring-in. So anyways, it's my pleasure to introduce David Lowry of Valkyrie Aircraft. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And
Just ask real quick, how did that go? Did you reach out from that catalog placement?
Yes, but sometimes people with a lot of money can be very weird in behaviors and can be as a snap and can require for many things that are very unreal. And that person I'm thinking of specifically wanted a rose gold plane without a vinyl, like rose gold. And he was in a lawsuit with Bentley because his friend absolutely won rose gold, things like that. So we're very firm performance discussion, safety, and we're just about the experience.
I think the reason I remember it was because of that rose color, right? And it was shot on that.
It was a good PR stunt, I guess.
Yes, right. So certainly it stuck with me. But anyways, in the meantime, years have passed, and now you've been continuing to develop the plane. But why don't you back a step and tell us a little bit about your background and why you got inspired to make an airplane to begin with?
I feel like an old man now because last time I came here was 15 years ago. I was a kid. I looked like a kid on the videos, a little bit long, and it's been a ride. We've stopped working, never stopped developing, iterating on everything about the plane. Just a 30-foot object, but that's involved, as you can imagine. Design in terms of flight tests, procedures for manufacturing consistent manner, ensure when we test tooth are supposed to be the same, they give the same results,
Sure.
Things like that seem obvious, but that actually the tiny tip of huge iceberg of all the processes, the people that, how your new people, how you train them. It takes about 18 months to train a new person to our processes and the level of quality that we're now showcasing right here, a few blocks away, 2 blocks away from here. I hope you guys are going to come check out.
Well, we're definitely going to come check it out. And for viewers at home, I want to you do have some footage of the aircraft off, so if we have the ability to some of that, that'd be very.
Here we go. So this is footage that you provided for us, and here.
My dreams and
that looks like my brain scan.
Come together.
I think so.
Yes. So,
while we're waiting for the realize, anyway,
it's is it at the proper speed? I haven't even looked.
But as far as before and after, very good.
Yeah, how do you call that?
3D view. Yeah.
Yeah, 3D of the plane, a few performance parameters, and actual footage of flight ops. That's where we conducted the last 2 years, all the flights we've done, Hollister. So you can see here.
Yeah. We have flying right now.
So we have total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any flights or flight hours?
Flights.
Yes.
That's once a week. A lot, but it is a lot when you go from nothing and you just take it out of the sky bit by bit. About 100 weeks.
Right.
To get to that, we had no drama. We've had no big surprise. But no real things. But not a single inch record. And the quality, flying quality, full push rod bell cranks. So you fly and it's a canard directly.
Yes.
It's very responsive. You don't have conventional configurations.
What design? Because it's an unusual. It's very interesting, and some of the behind that.
Look, the best we could find out there, right?
Yes. and home-built airplanes with canard wings. Yes.
So there's some Velocity Cozy, there's some F-18-16, there's some Maserati, there's some Bentley, anything we could find with Maserati to redesign. We went there in Modena, first business trip that we could imagine.
On my bucket, go to Modena, yes.
And it's actually them that they don't do a 5-seat. If the customer 3 seats in the back, it's okay. This is a 4-seat because you want with their Italian accent, look and the feel.
You are good at that, right?
Yeah,
yes.
very good.
Yeah. So what was background? How did you get to that? I'm going to design an airplane.
So when I was a teenager, between becoming an astronaut or a singer.
Yes.
And
and oftentimes
astronaut, you might not go this way. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so I went into engineering studies and did the school in France, which is called South. Which in the meantime, I met my dentist, who was Greek, which uncle became an instructor at Top as a Greek citizen.
Yeah.
And he opened, I was like, all of a sudden I have, hey, this is possible. What is actually possible, even if I'm not, from.
Right.
And so I decided to seeing I had been in American Times as a tourist, but so I went to talk to the C. I think it was for Michigan.
Okay.
And then I ended up actually on a master lab. I just did mixing in the French Air Force. Ended up in Atlanta, Georgia. It was, a few years. I learned on Cessnas, like everybody. And the services were just starting. Sounds like an old man, but that's the way it is. I remember my instructor had to switch on the, you don't have to have this.
Right. To Georgia Tech, you got yes, okay,
aerospace, and then 90, like right after my graduation, pilot's license, I had my degree, and then 9/11, then I had to basically choose between U.S. and go to automotive, oil and gas, some aerospace, because if you recall back, prevent all the non-citizens for civilian companies. I had an offer with them. I decided to stick to aerospace and go to France, and I started working for Airbus. And then, but then I had the seed was planted, so made its own way, and it grew.
Well, I got to say, with you going design, at least you kept. As I look at you, I mean, you may not have, but the hair is.
It
you know how hard it is.
Only recently.
Oh, really? You know how hard it is. I mean, this is very different. Kudos to you.
You had it downstairs, though. You have it.
Okay.
It's all like this. Research about the company. Correct me if I'm wrong. In 2017, moved to the Bay Area of California. Correct?
Yes, the company was called Cobalt Initiating. And then I had science with shareholders, among a few high-flying, former Airbus CEO, Chief of Staff of President Chirac. Was a few high-flying, but I get too low intent people. That's the thing. And in Europe, people are much more or like whatever is in the impossible box in their brain, and that leave us with our bouillabaisse or whatever our good living, good life we have here. It's happening today, right? It's true. It's what's happening. Not enough money, commitment, not enough risk-taking, enough culture of entrepreneurship. And that changed a lot when we are now. I'm surrounded by risk-taking people, by who are inspirations.
Yeah, that's what I ask, because you really put yourself in this in technology, and it seems like must be minded other companies and startups.
And when people ask us, why are you not in Seattle? Why are you not in Georgia? Why whatever, which all makes sense. But I felt that the blend that California of mindset, climate is breathtakingly gorgeous all the time. Never too, can get hot inland, but it's just fantastic. So the elephant in the room, and it's freaking cold the whole time. Really cold, you know, like the equipment suffers, though, the seals, and it pain a lot. You know, I am flying all the time, and it's like 70 of the time. Right. So all the actually a break to our in flight test, and we needed, and especially at the beginning, risk is concentrated, trying to mitigate the risk as you do. You like take that off, so that you concentrate like this on that one specific you want to test that day. Have all the elements, all the people, everything that's and more braking power point. Innovation gets stuck.
So you got into that hotbed and things really started to accelerate. It sounds so, and so what goals now? You've got the and everyone can come see it. But what would next?
We want to meet our ideal early adopters. That we know what people want. Little market wants in terms of canard, but some people want to fly in private car, bush flying, and there's also. But for that specific use that we offer is going to become eventually potentially a connection to the big boys. Obviously, we're a less mature company, smaller company. We're a small publisher in California. We are made, American designed, where I think it's important to say. And we're going anywhere anymore. Been actually to France, Serbia, Canada, then California. Would be 11 years straight. Now here, our service centers are going to demo flights are going to be in right now in Holland, now Byron, Bakersfield, places in California, and then bit by bit, but we're starting in a place where the flying conditions are good. ATC is just fantastic compared to all professionalism, overall professionalism of all, just to the level that is required by our immature, if you will. You know, we've been around for 15, all compared to 100 years, but we have also all the modern. We start to use AI. Have you know, anything new? Any worker gets trained on CAD, so that we avoid that. Oh, you have a big manual. You have to. You actually don't really do it, so that we reduce the friction internally. So now we want externally, and how are the people doing who want to be a part of it, welcome them, who are old enough and competent enough to work with us, have this vibration at some point, you know, fix that, or just there's information to us, because any flying is some this data, and we're level now, but we need more tens of thousands of hours flight. Back to the FAA and tell them we want it. But first, so we have homework that is done, all the means associated back in the days with Transport Canada, looking for 4 years. You won't find any sketchy. No, everything is by the primary structures are made with red carbon. I mean, even though it's an experimental plane, Belgian wheels and brakes, certified engine, everything you can have to a T-seat engine. So I believe $85,000 with plus engine and prop. It's about half of your competitor prices. So I think it makes it a good deal. Again, a kit built with factory have to be. You have to. If you're okay, we accept you.
Yeah, so I think that's an important point. It exists, so it really it helped to make it more accessible right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of just at that point start. Customers and getting bored that wanna be part of the site.
A little bit like with Tesla, with the Roadster. They're in the know because we don't communicate booth. We don't have our brand everywhere. You have to kind of be already. What do you call that? Seeking for new stuff.
Right.
And we're not that new for quite a while, so I think we're now talking. We have only 12 production positions. That's 3 years because we built as our curves allows.
Right.
So we're definitely 2 planes a day that service outputs, right?
But they started at 2, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we want those 4 planes a year.
Right.
We're gonna fly that plane. Fly it, ask them, communicate with us. It's and build that brand and be part of our tiny aviation history.
Yeah. Stick, and I think certainly you've demonstrated determination, but by steps that you have over the 15 years where you're here and doing that, really admirable. Yeah.
So off because obviously very much a professor for you. Kick off and turn on the aviation enthusiast. What do you want to see here? Is there any part of particular interest to you?
Yeah, I want to see the competition. Obviously, single engine pistons are at because obviously our segment from the turbine segment, not the same type of flying, and it's obviously I think of Oshkosh, right? Is the target. That's why we can't of going to other, but that are well known and either here's the place to be for people like for.
Let's talk a little bit about the airplane. We saw some of the specifications were on the video of some of the loads, some of that kind of stuff. How?
So we're bid for 22 turbo. I mean, we have 2 IO 550 or TSI 550. One is obviously more powerful, but and a little more complex, and so it requires more heat management. But weight right now is 200 pounds max. Go down, and that's for retractable. You're gonna see our gear. It's it's gorgeous gear. I think we have the because compared to other single. Sounds complex, but it's very beefy. It's awesome. So all that equipment and what it brings, it's definitely the best cargo volume. Maybe not as or to some other in the nose and cabin in the cargo area because you have no little thin like a shoe or something like that. It's massive and it feels like a lot of room, a lot of space. Everything was designed for the obviously the performance. Everything we want as much speed as we can. Useful load for top-notch safety. So we're doing our best as iterating plane after plane. Wage changes, for instance, the plane, you can't just take and then, with that. So we go as we move forward with factorial student numbers, and we can those all the adapters that we think up to date with the latest. We can do business deals of all sorts, but the experience inside the plane just breathtaking. So I invite you to our booth at some point, 439, booth 439.
439.
Come on over. We have VR headsets where you can, so you won't be able to, it's being filmed, you can live a pattern 100 flight with us in Hollister, and so that's great. You can, finishing of the prototype with flying is not the best, but so you can see what it feels like to Jen, and you're gonna see it's very straightforward.
Well, that is David of Centauri Aircraft. Super wishing you continued success. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us here. Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird. We're getting ready to hand over the next block. Russ Niles, one of our great contributor group. I want to encourage you to stick around. Walk-arounds of aircraft here you're going to love. And I also want to give a big shout out to Vemco, who have been sponsoring, and as many of you may know, they sponsor of I Laughed. From that, the very successful podcast has been producing, I think, is above now. Check that out. So awesome content to come here on Live, powered by Redbird.
Tempest Aero Group is a leading general aviation marketing and distribution company that has partnered with some of the best brands in the industry, including Tempest, Alcor, Marvel Schebler, Precision Air Motive, Consolidated Fuel Systems, and Stratus Tool Technologies. These brands represent high-quality aviation components and tools for OEM and aftermarket applications.
Quality, innovation, performance. Tempest.
Hello everyone, welcome live to Oshkosh AirVenture 2025. I'm Russ Niles, Editor-in-Chief of AvWeb, and we do a lot of news, and some news has been made here today already. Epic has announced the certification of its new AX variant, the modernized next-gen version. And weather is great, but of all the news stories that we're covering this week, probably the most important is the Mosaic announcement that's expected on Tuesday. We have Ryan Johnson here. Ryan has been instrumental in guiding this fantastic new age of aviation in through the regulatory process. But first, he works for Van's Aircraft, and they had an announcement of their own today. So tell us a little bit about what happened with Vans this morning.
Everyone knows we've been working on the RV-15. That's been going on for the last few years. And this last year, we've seen the final refinements come into place. And this morning, we started selling the wing kit, so the first of numerous kits that will be rolling out over the next year. It's a phased production. But yes, at 12:30 today, you can go over to the booth and get in line, buy a wing kit. Very exciting news. We believe it's bringing what means to be an RV to aviation to high wings. So excited to see that airplane roll out and users to start to enjoy the same thing we've been enjoying as test pilots for the last couple of years.
Now, it's particularly significant when you consider where Vans was at this time last year.
Right.
If you're watching this program, you know all about the Vans story. But to recap, they've filed for Chapter 11 a couple of years ago and have been working through that process and are now out of bankruptcy and trying to be a profitable company again and succeeding by all accounts. And this is really the first new item that has come up since Vans entered recovery. So tell us a little bit about what it's been like for the last year and a half or so, and what the commitment of all of the employees and staff at Vans has meant to getting this, and the customers, getting this very, very important company back in business and back serving customers and building airplanes.
The first credit goes to Van himself for backing the company, and the customers for staying with us. But yeah, employees working around the clock, lots of overtime, weekends. We've worked through those issues to begin with, but this last year we've really been able to work on some new things, things that are bringing the company forward, better organization, better operations, better customer experience overall. And of course, Van and I have been able to go back and work in the engineering department full-time on the RV-15, and we're seeing just the pace pick up there, and of course that airplane come out of the gate.
Well, we should probably tell people a little bit about the RV-15, what it brings to the table, and what market it captures.
Right. It's really, it fills a niche. You have a lot of airplanes that were larger, they're certified. Let's take the Cessna 180, 185. A lot of times people will fly those 2 people and a lot of baggage. Really, if you fly a 180 with 4 people in it, you can't carry any baggage with a full 4-person contingent. You can barely carry all your fuel. So that's one side of the bookend there. On the other side, we have a lot of smaller aircraft that use smaller Rotax variants, and they've slowly been growing the aircraft slightly larger and using larger engines. We felt there was a niche right in between where we could place a 2-seat aircraft with the IO390 from Lycoming in that 220 horsepower range that is not being served by either end of that community. There'll be an affordable airplane with great utility for the market. So we have the airplane has 900 plus pounds of useful load. We'll easily be able to achieve that. We have 60 gallons of fuel. So most Cubs have less than 40 gallons of useful fuel. And 2-place, side by side. Right now, if you go to the booth, you can see that we have a 55-gallon drum and a Home Depot black and yellow tote in there. So either one of those items couldn't be placed in some other baggage compartments on other aircraft. You can fit 6 of those totes in there. So it's a generous size baggage compartment made for the outback. We have special landing gear that you can basically pull back on the stick, and once the airplane lands, even if it's a landing that isn't going well, just pull back on the stick. That landing gear will plant. It has suspension built into it, so we have an extra 6 inches of suspension. You put that on 26-inch tires, and it has more suspension equivalent than the Cubs do on 30-some inch tires. So we feel we have a product that's safe, great over-the-nose visibility. It will keep insurance rates low. We have the matched hole design. This kit is going to be the most complete kit ever from Vans. So there will be no manufactured parts where you have to cut to length, etc. Everything there is out of the box.
It's all really easy to build, right?
Very easy to build.
Maybe even I could do it?
anybody could do it.
I'm not sure about that, but lots of new exciting things going on in the industry, but by far the most exciting is Mosaic. That's a new rule that will create a new classification of airplanes and expand the some of the perks of lower classifications of airplanes to planes that we can actually use.
Right.
Now, you're under the veil of secrecy about what's going to happen tomorrow, so we're not going to probe you too deeply, but the overwhelming rumor and what is being stated as fact here is that Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy will be here tomorrow, and he will make an announcement that Mosaic is in force. Now, you've been working on this for 4 years, 5 years?
Longer than that, yeah. It really started even as far back as 2017 in our efforts to expand what light sport aircraft could do. And it's been ongoing since.
The benefit of light sport aircraft is that you don't need anything more than a doctor's sign-off that you're not going to drop dead at the controls, right? So there's no medical process. Explain a few more other advantages of that regime in our ongoing and never-ending attempts to grow this industry.
Right. Well, overall, Mosaic is trying to lower the cost to get into aviation. It's trying to step people into aviation. So you mentioned the pilot side. On the pilot side, what a pilot can fly, that's defined in part of the new Mosaic standard that comes out, and then what an airplane needs to be is a different half of it. So looking at the pilot side, it's going to be exciting. If it's we don't know what's going to come out tomorrow, but if it stays the way it is currently written, as long as your airplane applies, and that could be even some older EABs, you will be able to fly that airplane with a light sport license, but also a stepping stone process. So I know the EAA is a great proponent of getting your light sport pilot's license and then by endorsement adding on different stepping stones until you get to that private pilot capability. And we'll see that with these airplanes. I think bringing those older airplanes in, pilots getting older, we see them come through the booth here at the show and talk to them throughout the year, where they want that airplane that has a little bit more capability than the current LSAs, and this will allow them to have that.
Right. Now, the whole idea is to expand access and to take care of old guys like me who maybe want to step down and step back a little bit, and no IFR anymore, although Mosaic will include IFR,
it will
right?
Include it, yes.
But what are the factors that go into assessing just where we are in relaxing those rules? How does safety come in, and what's the equation there?
Well, safety is where we were allowed to go forward with Mosaic. Mosaic airplanes have had an equivalent, or even in some years, better safety record than general aviation certified aircraft. And it's on that basis that the FAA said, why don't we expand what this is, and maybe we can make things more affordable for a wider range of aircraft while keeping safety the same. It is a ASTM-based process, so manufacturers and users get together and they work together to create standards. And those standards are used to set the level of safety. As a final checkoff, we submit those standards to the FAA, and they agree that they're at the level or the bar that they need to be.
You know what? Sooner or later, this guy is probably going to be a Mosaic pilot.
Eventually, yes. So we have the level of safety there. That's been established, and we feel that it's a great space. We look forward to what's going to happen for the aircraft side, what an aircraft could be. There's additional levels of safety that we're bringing under Mosaic where we could really increase safety. For example, we're currently writing the standards for twin-engine aircraft. Can we raise that bar to be more realistic on what would make a safe airplane? when one engine goes out in your twin-engine aircraft, do you want it to go down right underneath you, or would you rather have a higher bar of safety? We know that there's safety metrics that come into play there. So there's a number of areas where we've seen safety issues throughout the industry, and we're addressing those as we write these standards moving forward. We expect to see what's called an effectivity date on Mosaic. So you'll see the rule come out. What a pilot can fly will go into place much sooner than the aircraft side.
So that'll capture the existing airplanes.
Airplanes. So the benefit of being able to fly as a light sport pilot, that will come relatively soon. We could see an effectivity date of up to 365 days or 1 year from now until you can build a Mosaic aircraft under the expanded category. The reason for that is we're still finalizing the standards. We've been in something called ex parte with the government. They can't talk to us. They've been writing this rule behind closed doors. And once this rule comes out, hopefully tomorrow, we'll know what the rule is, and we'll be able to talk back and forth on what these standards will be. Their standards are created in a balloted process. So we write the standard, we send it out to ballot, people vote on it. That takes time. So that year is kind of the outside window of how much time it would take for these standards to put in place through the balloted process.
Okay, so is a rule required? Like, will there be a rule-making process to create Mosaic, or is it just the ASTM thing?
We're almost through the rule-making process side of it. So the FAA has written a proposed rule, and they submitted that rule to the public. The public has publicly commented on it. The FAA has to go back and review all of those comments, change the rule, and now we're waiting for the final rule to come out. Once the final rule is in place, then ASTM is writing a means of compliance to that rule. So the actual design standards that you have to meet as a manufacturer to make an airplane that complies with that rule.
So what's the impact on the OEMs? Are OEMs going to start coming up with Mosaic designs?
Yes, it's already underway. You see a lot of airplanes advertising Mosaic ready. So, yes, airplanes...
Even though they didn't know what the rule was.
That's correct. But we've been writing it behind closed doors and kind of anticipating what we think it will be. So, yes, there's various smoke signals being sent back and forth, and we're working through the process.
Nitty-gritty detail is, I mean, nothing this complex ever gets done without some wrangling. And and it came down to some short strokes around stall speed, weights.
Which we don't know what it'll be yet.
But the general push was to increase stall speed to capture more airplanes, right?
And all I can say is I believe that the FAA's been great at listening during this process, and I think we're going to be happy with what comes out when the rule finally does come out.
Well, it was the stall speed arguments were loud and clear.
Yes,
and they were unanimous to increase the stall speed.
And
we're talking in the mid-50s, right?
Yeah, I believe we'll see an increase. Yes,
and that captures a whole bunch of legacy airplanes that are in those 50s range and are very popular. Among,
the great thing about the FAA side of this is we have real FAA members that fly airplanes in this category. They're not people that are, unaware of the need of this industry at this level and to reduce the cost in aviation.
As we gap for the F-35, it strikes me that the guy flying that airplane started out likely in Cessnas and maybe even light sport. What is the future for flight training with Mosaic? What's that going to do for flight training?
That is one of the main reasons the FAA has come out with Mosaic. You have airplanes that are 70 years old on the flight training line. It's very difficult to put new technology in those airplanes. There's many advancements that are coming. For example, Mosaic has no restriction on the type of power plant, where the existing light sport, you can't even have electric. And long term, we're seeing things just open up in many windows. But creating that low-cost trainer which may be Rotax or Lycoming powered, that can go out onto the assembly line, efficiently be built, come out at a reasonable cost, and flight schools can put an airplane on the assembly line or on their line that has low-cost avionics that take us to the next level. It's not just steam gauges anymore. I think the modern pilot wants that. They want the new avionics. We have already proven that there's greater levels of safety associated with that. So we're excited to see lower-cost airplanes go to flight schools through this process.
With few exceptions, the major OEMs haven't come out with new designs at this end of the market for at least 40 years, right?
In GA, that's true. Especially in the last 20 years, really, Cirrus is the only mass-produced airplane that you see come out that's showing up in a flight school. But in the light sport market, we have multiple airplanes that have come out per year. I mean, they're in the hundreds of light sport since the release of light sport around 20 years ago. And we expect that to spur new designs under the new Mosaic requirements moving forward. I mean, the RV-15 would be your first example. Or the benefit here is even in the ELSA market, you might see new kits come out under Mosaic in that there's no 51% rule under Mosaic. So you can build ELSA without 51% rule. It's really going to result in a safer aircraft, an aircraft that's supplied with a maintenance manual, a flight training supplement, a POH. It's built to a standard. So we're excited about this from the experimental side as well.
So really, Mosaic is a creation of light sport. It is. The lessons learned from a good-hearted, good faith attempt to make aviation more accessible and cheaper that
Correct.
fell short in some aspects and basically ended up with inferior aircraft that didn't need to be inferior.
They were a little bit on the small side, yes. Not enough gross weight, and the strength wasn't there. But that will be changed with the weight limit going away and the other requirements changing as well.
Like, for instance, on training airplanes, to save weight, they would put light gear in it.
Exactly. And now 172 will be accepted. So,
right.
Which is their most safe trainer of all time.
Do you think any designs that went away in the past 40 years will come back because of Mosaic?
Historical designs, they might. I really am looking forward to what's next, the next generation of airplanes. I know I have things on the drawing board that I'm excited to see come out under Mosaic. You're really seeing engines with turbochargers more often, the 916s out there now. That has a lot of opportunity. We'll see airplanes they'll have that low stall speed but have a much higher top end. And under these standards, that can be accomplished safely. And IFR capability, as you mentioned as well. So,
and maybe carrying 3 passengers?
You're allowed 4 under the way the rule's currently written now, but not as a light sport pilot. But as a private pilot, you could fly a light sport aircraft with up to 4 on board. So greater commercial use of the airplane as well. So that's another aspect that will make the airplane more viable, especially if you're in a flight school and you can use it in multiple ways.
Okay, well, we're all looking forward to Mosaic, and we're looking forward to the breath of fresh air. The industry is a little stale. We're over the electronic revolution.
Right.
We need something new, don't we?
We do.
And
I encourage people to become part of the process. I know we're running out of our time here, but both manufacturers and also users, when you write the STM rules, there has to be a 50% split between manufacturers and users. So we have a number of just interested pilots that come and they have a vote on what the future of Mosaic will be, along with government entities as well. So we're all there working together. We need the help to write these standards. If we have more help, we'll be able to do it in a shorter time than 365 days.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that that ASTM is very much an inclusive process. And,
it is. And it's much more robust because of it.
And that anybody can join.
Yes. We encourage it.
So, do we have any idea what time all of this is going to happen tomorrow?
Midday sometime, I would expect. Not exactly sure. Any announcement would come from EAA if there will be one. So we'll just wait. There's no sure guarantee that there will be an announcement. So we'll just wait for EAA to give us the information on that.
So where does the RV-15 fit into? I'm assuming it's Mosaic.
Correct. Yeah.
Capable and.
Yeah, the stall speed's definitely there. No matter what the stall speed comes out as, it's we're under 45 knots at gross weight with the flaps up. So flaps down, but even flaps up, we're under the requirements they're naming for Mosaic. Okay. So we definitely fit within the boundary on the 15. We're excited to see that airplane eventually get into flight schools, as well as the backcountry mission, which we release it, initially. We've view that airplane has a long legacy in aviation.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Ryan. We're going to throw to our cool plane of the day. We brought that feature back. It was very popular last year. And today's airplane is one of the coolest I've ever seen. It's a 1929 Fairchild, but the guys that fly it hop in it and fly it anywhere. It's not a museum piece. It's meant to be flown, and it is absolutely beautiful. So with that, here's your cool plane of the day.
Hi, this is Mark Phelps reporting here at EAA AirVenture 2025, and today's cool airplane is pretty cool. It's a 1929 Fairchild, and two brothers have brought the airplane out from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and their whole family is going to be here since their father is the one who originally did the restoration. They're going to tell us all about it, a little bit of its history, and a little bit of how this restoration came about.
I am Kendall Horst and my brother Sheldon, and we brought the 1929 Fairchild 71 from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The aircraft was restored by our father, Marlon, and first came to Oshkosh in 2014.
We're very excited that it's the 100th anniversary Fairchild celebration here at Oshkosh, and glad that the Fairchild 71 could be here. It's an exciting event. Our whole family's coming together to be here, and with Dad having restored this aircraft, it's a real special opportunity for us to be together as a family.
So this is a Fairchild 71. The Fairchild 71 is a stretched Fairchild FC2W2, and the FC2W2 was mostly used for aerial mapping and housed a large format camera in the back. This airplane was stretched 18 inches and given the model designation of a 71.
Yeah, it's a very versatile aircraft, and it was used in Alaska quite a bit. One story that I heard is that Bob Reeves used and discovered the aircraft. It was very good to get supplies to the gold mines in Alaska, and interestingly, he figured out that you could put skis on the Fairchild, and when the tide went out on the coast, it would turn to mud, which was similar to snow and the slippiness of it, and he could take off on the coast, off the mud, go up to the mine and land on the glacier and drop his supplies and people, and then time his trip back to the coast and land on the mud again. And so that was an innovative way to serve the needs of the Alaskan gold mines.
So this particular 71 came out of Idaho from a gentleman by the name of Gene Frank. He was a collector and a crop duster guy, and he collected a lot of airplanes, and so this airplane was obtained from him in very, very poor condition, and our father Marlon he took on the restoration in the early 2000s. The restoration spanned about 6 or 8 years and 13,000 man hours, and here we are.
So today the aircraft is just like the original sales brochure that Fairchild put out when they first brought the aircraft to market, and it actually shares the N number of the original that was shown 9708. And the paint scheme is the same as the original Fairchild demonstrator. The only real functional difference is that the Pratt & Whitney radial engine was updated to a 985, whereas the original one would have been greaser with greased rocker arms, And the wheels are BT13 wheels with redline brakes, so there's a nice, maintainable and highly functional brake system and wheel system, and a very reliable 985, which makes the airplane really a brand new airplane, but yet just like the original in all practical aspects, and makes it really the fact that we have a brand new Fairchild, really.
So during the restoration of this aircraft, our dad had in mind to create a machine that was actually usable. A lot of times antiques are built with true authenticity in mind, and the equipment just isn't up for today's standards. But this aircraft was outfitted with modern radios, modern transponder, ADS-B, modern fuel valves, and all those changes were done under field approvals and 337s, and so the airplane is highly functional in today's airspace. We don't have any problems getting to Oshkosh. You know, the airplane is fairly easy to take care of. It's a 985 with a Hamilton standard propeller, and you put oil in it, you put gas in it, and you come to Oshkosh.
We're really in the process of looking for a future for the aircraft. It had been down for 3 years. Kendall brought it back to life, and Kendall and I were able to bring the aircraft to Oshkosh, and Dad's coming later. But now, as a family, we have this legacy, if you will, and we have a beautiful airplane, a very functional airplane, and we're going to enjoy it. But what is the potential of the aircraft, and what can it accomplish? We want the aircraft to achieve its full potential in the years ahead, and we're looking to figure out what that is.
Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. It's a beautiful day here at Oshkosh. My friend Ryan Ewing from Airline Geeks is up with a familiar face in aviation media. Pete Muntean from CNN is his guest, and we're going to find out what it's like behind the cameras at that gigantic network when they cover aviation. Thanks very much for watching, and this is Russ Niles for AvWeb. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tempest plays a vital role in the industry, and in today's world we are the leading spark plug and oil filter manufacturer for general aviation. We've been able to not only release new products, but we've taken legacy products and created innovations. We take great pride, not only from a design standpoint, but from a manufacturing standpoint, all the way down to making sure the customer is satisfied with the product. Quality, innovation, performance. Tempest.
Next. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Trashed.
Life's better when you're prepared, especially on the flight deck. Find a red bird near you and fly like you've been there before.
I help people.
I create music. I shape the future.
I am an entrepreneur.
I inspire people with more than words.
I ride forward.
The sky is not my limit.
Find your blue at MTSU.
All right, welcome back to Oshkosh Live. I'm Ryan. This is Sean. And you might recognize this face here. This is Pete Montine from CNN. He's not just any aviation reporter. He is a pilot. He's had a long, you've been around this industry a long time.
Yep. Grew up in it.
I remember, so you're from the Maryland area. I am too. I remember watching you
Me
on
too.
local. And you are too.
Yes.
I forgot. I'm sorry.
Go Terps.
Go Terps.
Thank you.
And
you're not the first person to say go Terps this week. Go
I
Terps.
remember growing up and watching you in high school. It's
I was on Channel 9 for a while.
On Channel 9,
yeah.
WSA 9.
Yeah. I spent 10 years in local news, which was very different than covering national news. You know, I was covering like everything from state government and politics to cats and trees. And now I cover only aviation, which is like the dream gig. You know, like this is something I love aviation more than anything. And sadly, there's a lot of incidents lately, but you know, there's a lot of joy in aviation too, and I just can't get enough of it. And like, what better place to be to talk about aviation than Oshkosh?
Can I start with a heavy-hitting
Sure,
question?
try me.
Can we get a shot of his water bottle and all the stickers on it? So maybe a little bit of stories. I don't know if this is like, for me, my guitar case has the stickers of all the places I've been. So Pete, tell us what we're looking at here.
It's honestly an amalgamation of all of these stickers that I've collected at Osh. I have a big hangar party every year at my hangar at Potomac Airfield in Maryland. And so this one is from Petapalooza. It's got my Super Decathlon on it. I've got previous years here. I've got my friend Kevin's Aranca sedan, which is out in Vintage Row 77, if you want to go check it out. It's a beautiful airplane. Buddy's Cub. There was a group, this one's kind of fading, the Happy Champers. So it's kind of like, you know, the Osh badges of honor.
Love it.
And I sort of just end up putting them all in the water bottle. And it rolls around on the floor in the airplane sometimes. And you just, you know, got to be hydrated here.
Yes.
It's important.
Especially for if you imbibe in any after-hours fun at Osh.
Oh, yeah. There's none of that.
Yeah,
none of that. Absolutely not. So, you know, Pete, you've been a pilot for how long?
Let's see. I became a pilot. The joke when I was growing up is I was like flying in utero. And I took my first flight when I was 2 weeks old. Both of my parents were pilots. My dad got into aviation when he was a kid. My grandfather on my dad's side, my dad's dad, he had some general aviation airplanes. When my dad was young, he had a Stinson at one point, but the family grew and they sort of got out of little airplanes. So later in life, when he met my mom, they were very into sailing. He was working for a company that had an airplane, and it was a sales company, and their territory was the Delmarva area, so Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia, and D.C., and that's an area that has hellacious traffic, and so they were sort of flying around some to do sales calls. So my dad got his pilot's license because he was exposed to it. My mom also got exposed to it through that. She got her pilot's license. My parents took ground school at the same time. And so I sort of was born into flying. I'm really fortunate and lucky in that way. I very much sort of recognize my privilege in that regard. And so to answer your question, I grew up around aviation. My mom had a flight school. She was an air show pilot. And I became a pilot around the time I was 18. I got my private certificate in 2007. And then I got my instrument not long after that. I got my commercial. Sort of the gaps in my flying sort of reflect the gaps in my checkbook. So when I wasn't making a lot of money in local news, I wasn't flying as much. But then, more recently I got my CFI, so I'm instructing. I'm a double I, so I can teach instruments. I have a multi-commercial. So I love flying more than anything. It's hard to sort of take me away from it. But so I've been flying essentially since I was a teen. And my parents had a Piper Lance. That was the family airplane. And I grew up sort of sitting on phone books. I kind of joke I was an instrument pilot before I was a VFR pilot because I could only see the instruments as a little kid, couldn't see over the top of the panel. So,
wow, that's fun.
It was a really great way to grow up.
So your mom was, say that again, she was what kind of pilot was she?
She was an air show pilot.
That's what I remember.
So my mom, her name was Nancy Lynn, and so she was an aerobatic flight instructor and an aerobatic competitor. I fly in aerobatic competitions now. And she traveled the country as an air show pilot and I announced for her. So we were the only mother-son team in the industry, which is a really cool way to grow up. That's actually how I got interested in broadcasting, because we'd always get a lot of media coverage at different air shows. And so she was flying in an air show when I was a teen and crashed, and then died later that night. And so when I thought then I was going to a community college, and I thought I was going to sort of run away and join the circus and do the air show thing with my mom forever, which was a bit short-sighted at the time, now I realize. But it sort of launched me into journalism more than anything. And I knew I was interested sort of in the communications field because of the air show work. And then I got connected with Miles O'Brien at CNN, who was a longtime CNNer. And he called me not long after my mom died and said, "You're going to be my summer intern." And so I moved to CNN Center in Atlanta and had a great experience there. I sort of found, I feel like, my aviation was my people, and I found my other people sort of in journalism, and had an amazing experience. And all I have done in my career was try and emulate Miles' career. And he's still a contributor for CNN, and sometimes we're in double boxes on CNN when a big thing happens, which I find to be, it's pretty surreal to sort of share the screen with your mentor. He's a great, and Miles is also a great pilot, too.
That's great.
So, yeah.
That's great. So, what kind of airplane are you flying these days?
I have a Super Decathlon, which is a two-seat aerobatic plane. If you're not familiar with the big fleet of 10,000 airplanes here at Oshkosh, they all have starburst paint schemes. It's covered in fabric. Goes about 130 miles an hour, so it's a decent cross-country airplane. Seats 2, so I can bring my fiance with me. We can go to aerobatic competitions. We can bring a little bit of bags. It's a very capable aerobatic plane. It's certified to +6 and -5 Gs, so flying it in the intermediate category at IAC, International Aerobatic Club competitions, and that I can't get enough of that. It's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's real cool.
But I'm not doing the air show thing just yet. That was sort of my mom's bailiwick, but I'm hearing the siren song more.
You flew into Oshkosh. You do it every year, pretty much, right?
Yep. I'm camping with the plane in the North 40.
Got Starlink over there to stay on top of stuff. We had to get it for
We didn't buy one ahead of this. We should have.
We got one over our campsite. I tell you, it's a game changer.
I think I have a buddy who has also a Decathlon, and the airplane has a bit of a skylight.
Yeah, you can.
And so he puts his Starlink on the ceiling and gets Wi-Fi the entire flight. One nice thing about flying is that you leave everything sort of terrestrial, all the concerns on the ground.
Right.
And so it sort of, sadly, the flip side of that is you lose that if you have internet the entire time you're flying. It's kind of nice to be insulated from real life.
It's not quite free in-flight Wi-Fi, but
it's close.
It's close.
Yeah.
Right. It's close. It's close.
Yeah.
Oh.
So what, I'd be curious whether it's on your desktop or somewhere in your computer, if you can divulge, like, what stories right now are in development for you? What are you researching or working on right now, if you can share
the
such
one
things?
big story I'm really excited for is I get to fly the Goodyear blimp here at Oshkosh, which is really cool, and we're doing that for CNN, which is a lot of fun, and I'm going to get to pilot the blimp. I've flown on it before. I can't believe that Goodyear went for this, but I sort of said, hey, would it be cool if I got a little stick time in the blimp? And they said, sure. So we're going to do that tonight. It should be a lot of fun. But I'm also working on a few other things. There's so much news. There's no shortage of news on the beat lately.
Yeah.
So after Oshkosh, there's a 3-day hearing by the NTSB on the DCA mid-air collision on January 29th. I'm sure there will be a ton of news in that. That's sort of something that everyone on the beat will be watching. I'm working on a few things there's so many concerns about the growing issues that drones pose as a tool of terror or war. And so how do you protect large gatherings of people against drones and still filter out bad drones and keep good ones in? So I'm working on something on that. And there's just there's always something that will pop up. So I usually have something sort of cooking on the back burner. I just came back from the FAA Training Academy in Oklahoma City, where they train air traffic controllers. There's a huge push to hire air traffic controllers right now. There's 3,000 controller shortage in the U.S. So that's a huge deal. And things that the Trump administration is doing to sort of try and entice people to the job, keep people from retiring early. So that's something that I just did. And they let me do the tower simulator there, which even as a pilot was pretty hard.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder of how tough of a job these controllers have. And many of them are working mandatory 6-day weeks of 10-hour shifts. So, it's a lot of it's kind of like playing Jenga in 4D, what they do. And it's just really, it's to be able to experience it in the simulator really sort of changes your respect for that job.
I was thinking you might be able to go undercover in the air control tower here and see how that goes.
I won in the tower. I've been coming to Oshkosh since I was a kid, and so the first time I was here, it was the early 2000s, and I knew a controller in the tower, and I got to go up in the old tower, and that was a real hoot. It was before this tower was built. They had a much smaller tower, and it was great.
As we were talking about it, they caught
here
it
comes
on
the
a camera.
blimp.
Yeah,
Good,
it's almost like we planned
very
that,
fortuitous.
right?
Yeah,
right.
So they're going to have 2 of them here this year.
There was one, yeah,
and it's the 100th anniversary of the Goodyear blimp, and it's very significant because the fact that it's probably the most successful advertising campaign using an air tool ever. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we actually have someone going up in it on Thursday. That'll be on Oshkosh Live on our Thursday show. But let me tell you, what is the vetting process for being allowed to pilot the blimp? Was there
nicely?
Yeah.
I think they feel okay that I'm not going to, no sudden movements in the blimp are not really
it's
possible
a little slower
anyway.
Than the GA airplane.
I asked nicely, and I have a friend of a friend who knows the chief pilot, and it seems that sort of worked out in my favor. So, vetting process, I don't know if I would call it that, but, I think, I'll be under good supervision.
Yeah. Next up is the Samaritan's Purse DC-8.
Right? Or the 747 SP that
Pratt
came
Whitney,
in.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
I'm really excited to see that tomorrow, the DC-8. I mean, that's the only one left. That's in U.S., it's an active service. It's retiring, this year. So,
and we got to see the U-2 fly over yesterday, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. So it's very, Osh is, there's no shortage of special moments here, and that's what makes it so cool and so magical.
Oh, that's absolutely nice. So I want to talk about, media and reporting.
Sure.
So, like, when on my side of things, our audience is people who are already in aviation, right? And so when I tell the story, I don't have to, it's a different audience.
Right.
But I'm curious, like, how do you take, because you know a lot about aviation, a lot. And how do you take that and communicate it to more of a mainstream audience?
It's a challenge. It's easy when I'm out covering a story for other pilots I'm speaking to. If they know my background, they switch into aviation language.
Right.
And aviation truly is another language.
It
like
is.
if you look at the pilot controller glossary, which is, like the dictionary for pilots, there are 3,000 terms and about 2,000 of them are acronyms.
Yeah.
So it's really important, I think, to sort of, I treat it almost like I'm teaching a brand new flying student. And I've taken students from zero to first solo to their license. I just try to sort of take people from the unknown to the known and speak to them like a normal person. And it really, it can be really tricky to sort of break things down. And the real, rub with that is you don't want to break it down too much to the point that it's inaccurate. You don't want to make it overly simple. And there's a lot of nuance in aviation. And so I really just try to sort of meet people where they're at. And that takes some practice. And but I do really think of it like a flying lesson. Like I'm just taking somebody from nothing from zero to hero. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Is there any story, or is there a story that comes to mind? One of the things I wanted to ask you was, especially in this universe, how difficult some of these stories must be from just a human POV. What comes to mind, like a story that was particularly just, wore on you, was very emotional for you?
I think that the midair over DCA in January was really tough, and I knew people who were out there as part of the search party that night. And I have such a close kinship to that airport. I'm always there doing live shots. It's in the backyard of D.C. I think a lot of people in D.C. have a really closeness to Reagan National Airport just because it's, members of Congress are going through. It's so convenient. It's really an incredible airport with a lot of history. But that was really tough. And I, know the particulars and the closeness of the airspace there. I'm there all the time talking on the topic of the day with pilots who come through and flight attendants who come through, and it's like a little city. It's like a little Richard Scarry storybook. And so I know the TSA agents, and I think it was just very personal to all of us. And having lived through my own tragedy with my mom's crash and seeing that and witnessing that, I know what it's like to sort of be thrust into having to be an expert on something so terrible. And really, like, that's a huge education when you are a family member. And I really feel for the family members, too, because, you know, these are people who are coming back from an ice skating camp in Wichita. There were a lot of kids and families on board. And it's something that was so preventable, too. And so that was a gauntlet. And thankfully, you know, props to CNN, they sort of brought in other voices. I was able to sort of, like, you know, do sort of a 12 on, 12 off kind of thing and catch my breath. And that's important also from a journalistic perspective to be able to sort of stand back and say, like, okay, what's really going on here? Like, we knew what happened, but just to have a tiny bit of distance to be able to explain the how and why. So that was really tough. And I think, you know, I've said this before, but I think journalists are really first responders for the First Amendment, and it's really important that we have a protected and free press and stand up to things that aren't true. And there's an era of incredible misinformation, even on this story, something that's so cut and dry. Yeah. So, you know, it was tough. It was a tough rub, and I'm grateful. I have a lot of support, and aviation is like my family, and a lot of people were calling and texting. I had 200 text messages that night.
Same.
It was really incredible. So, and you know. Yeah.
We were just talking before we got on air about this, and like you, I grew up at that airport. I spent 10 years volunteering there, and got to know a lot of people within the authority and within the, you know, like you said, I mean, you see the same TSA agents. When I fly out now, you know, 10 odd years later. And it really hit close to home.
Yeah,
but you have to sort of you have to sort of separate it out, right, and say, you know, I have to cover this for the audience and dig deep and see what's going on. But in the same vein, you're like, wow, you know, that's.
Yeah, I will say in a way that to be able to cover it, it was important for me to be able to sort of channel my emotion. And I've done so much work on my own trauma with my mom's crash, but to be able to sort of tap into that and sort of put myself in the shoes of somebody who is really close, you know, not far away on the periphery, really close on the periphery, and what would they want to know? How can you stand up for them? Can you advocate for people who are trying to find information? And so, you know, in some ways, my background, as bad as it may be in some ways, is really important and educational. It's important to sort of channel those emotions too, I think, into good work.
Well, you know, one person I've talked to after that accident quite a bit is, I'm sure you have too, is Tim Lively.
Yeah.
The father of the first officer on the PSA flight. And his story is incredible.
Yeah, and he has a flying background.
He's a Black Hawk pilot. Right. Flew out of the Pentagon. He flew CRJs briefly.
Yep.
And I think he's kind of turned into a sounding board, I think, for a lot of those families to try to make sense of what is going on. And, you know, it's still crazy to me today that happened. I mean, I've flown the 3-3 approaches you have so many times as a passenger.
I think the thing that is the most troubling to me when it comes to this incident is that a lot of warning signs were there.
Right.
And, you know, in all of 2023, we covered near miss after near miss after near miss at plenty of large terminal area airports, not necessarily involving airplanes and helicopters, and not with some of the special circumstances that were sort of baked into the helicopter routes and the intersection of approaches at DCA, but there's so many warning signs, and I think aviation is at a really important inflection point right now when those things come up, and now there's just another new near miss in North Dakota involving a B-52 and a SkyWest flight. You know, it's really important. I think aviation, to its merit, top to bottom, takes a step back and looks at how do we inspect this, how do we make this better. It's not to lay blame or point fingers. It's to figure out what went wrong and how to make it a thing that has become a headline, an irregularity, something that has not happened with a lot of frequency.
And I just asked Chair Hamidi from the NTSB when she was on, you know, after that was the DCA incident and this most recent one, and there's been others in between, you know, what can the FAA do? What do they think the FAA can do to help that symbiosis, I like to call it, between military and GA, anything civilian? And that's a starting to become more of a site. I mean, you're a pilot. You know that sometimes when they're not broadcasting or
the thing that has stood out to me is the ADS-B mandate, which went into place in 2020. Everybody in aviation had to have ADS-B out, the ability to broadcast out in many airports, near many airports and in many classes of airspace. The military has its own, essentially, ability to sort of waive that. They don't have to put that out if it's for mission criticality. And so, I think there needs to be some changes there, and it seems like that's happening. Coming into the most busy airspace in the world here right now, we're all using ADS-B.
Right.
We're all being able to follow the airplane in front of us and see the tail number and what they're doing and which way they're going. It's one of the reasons why the arrival procedures at Oshkosh are so successful and so safe. Hopefully there is some regulatory change when it comes to that.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add there?
No, I mean, that was powerful. I mean, I wanted to ask that question, and now just thinking about that happening in our collective backyard, with your own personal story, it's like that confluence of that moment is kind of extraordinary that it even happened, that you were the person to be the voice there for that.
I mean, I was sitting at home on my couch, and that makes it sound like I was waiting for something bad to happen. That's not what I was doing. I had just done a story that day. My fiance and I were watching TV. I got a phone call from a friend who is at the D.C. Fire Department, and I was like, why is he calling me at this hour at 9 p.m.? And then I got a call from our assignment desk saying, hey, we think a plane went down in the Potomac. You need to come in. Thankfully, I live really close to the office, and so I was on TV almost right away. And that was important, especially in the initial period when we didn't really know much, to sort of just do the observational journalism and say, this is what we're looking at, this is what may have happened, and you really need to walk people through it by the hand without speculating. And that's a really tough thing especially in this environment where people on YouTube can go up immediately and put out and say things that aren't very measured. It's really, really important to have the standards that we have and that so many journalists have.
Well, yeah, and I like you, I was sitting on my couch.
Right.
It was at my time it was an hour before, and I was scrolling through. I'm still very active in the DC, plane spotter and Facebook and pilot communities, whatever. And so I was seeing this stuff, and I was seeing these chatter about a lot of vehicles were headed to DCA, and I was like, maybe it's an aircraft alert. Normally those go to Dulles, though.
Maybe it's a drill.
Maybe it's a drill, or maybe it was a smaller accident involving something else in the river. My mind didn't want to believe it at first. That's where I was. I was in denial for a long time that there was an airliner until as the night went on and the wee odd hours of the morning there, it started to become very clear.
Yeah, and we all know the history of DC. In that the Air Florida crash of 1982, and that plane ended up hitting the 14th Street Bridge. That was a horrible tragedy also, and that is something that is so baked into the local history and in aviation history too. And so, there were a lot of echoes there in some ways, and I think, it's hard to ignore.
No, you're right. So you're a flight instructor, and I was talking to Chair Amity earlier about this, but you have a younger generation coming into the aviation now. And with that, how do you, what do you think from a flight instructor side? Like, what's the way to build your curriculum now around that greener sort of individual?
That's interesting. I think that aviation it really needs to rise to the occasion now because there's so many shortages, not only of pilots, also of air traffic controllers, also of maintenance technicians. We need people. And so that's why something like Oshkosh is so important, and air shows are so important, because in a very fenced-off reality of aviation now, in a post-9/11 world where, someone from my dad's or mom's generation could almost go up and touch an airplane very easily and access it with not a lot of barriers, now it's become much harder. And so, air shows are the best way, I think, for the public to experience aviation, to smell it, to feel it, to taste it. It is really incredible. That's why Oshkosh is also so important. To have AirVenture, to have 750,000 people here over a week is just something that's so, from every part of the world is so key. So I would say that, the biggest thing, I wouldn't discourage any young person from aviation. I think now is a great time to take a flying lesson. If you're a parent or an aunt or uncle or a grandparent, or you're a mentor, get somebody a discovery flight. And I think that, there is going to be a lot of change. The technological change is really, really good. In some ways, it makes flying easier. And in a way more accessible. You know, we're in the Redbird booth right now. These simulators, the fidelity is so incredible. These are FAA certificated. These simulators can be used as a facsimile for instrument flying. You can keep your currency up on it. I have a friend who teaches a high school class in Northern California, where they recently got a bunch of these simulators, and so it's a way to sort of meet people where they're at. It's essentially bringing aviation to the classrooms. It's a pretty incredible thing. Yeah. But you know, I think it's important for every sort of young person to have a bit of aviation literacy, and hopefully young people sort of see that there is a lot of growth opportunity in aviation. Oh, and by the way, it's really cool and fun.
Oh yeah, there's that.
So,
there's that part
You know,
too.
it's amazing. And so, and I think, you know, when it comes to the curriculum of teaching, the technology is good, but you can't ignore the fundamentals.
Right.
And so many incidents are still caused by loss of control. That's the top killer of pilots in the United States. To fly airplanes and to have really good a tactile feel of what an airplane can do and where the full edges of the envelope are, you do learn that generally in smaller airplanes, and you can replicate it in some ways in simulators. But you know, you don't want to sort of brush that aside and go too fast. I think so. It's a tough balance.
Nothing can beat hands-on experience.
That's true.
And you know, I think sometimes, especially in the commercial side of the world, there's this Part 120 or the Part 121 side. There's death by PowerPoint sometimes, and nothing can beat it. And Chair Hominy made this point, and I thought it was interesting. It's like, the hands-on learning part is super important.
Yeah, and I think, in general aviation, we try to take a lot from what is happening, try to learn a lot from what's happening in the professional flying world.
Right.
And, the cool thing about Oshkosh is that it's a lot of pilots flying very professionally coming in here, but you don't have to be a professional to fly like one. And so I think that is, really, really key and sort of showed off in an incredible way at a place like this.
Pete, thank you so much
for
sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for sharing your stories. All of it. We'll also be keeping an eye on the blimp and for any dramatic movements in the air.
Yeah, it's 5:30 Central Time today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's also not just one blimp; it's a two-ship of blimps that we're going up and a photo plane. So it should be really neat.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Thank you so much,
thanks,
Pete.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming around.
Yeah.
That wraps up day one here at Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight. 3 more days of coverage here from the Redbird booth. So we'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Thank you so much. This is Oshkosh Live, powered by Redbird Flight.